In my family, we don't apologize because we never make mistakes. I'm Izuku Midoriya, heir to the world's most feared assassin dynasty. They trained me to kill since I could walk. They built me to dominate. But when I decided to become a hero, everything changed. This isn't the story you know. In a world of heroes and villains, I chose my own path. Welcome to my world, where lightning meets legacy, and every move is lethal.
Welcome, legends, to Chronos Recom. I wrote this story myself, so if you have any suggestions or what-ifs you want to see, drop it in the comments below. Also, just wanted to let you know I've got a Patreon set up now for anyone who wants to support the channel directly. You can get early access to stories, submit direct fan requests, and get exclusive content. It's totally optional, but if you want to help keep these stories coming, check it out. Links in the description. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that bell so you never miss an upload. Let's dive into this story.
The rain fell in sheets across the abandoned warehouse district of Yokohama, each droplet reflecting the distant city lights like falling stars. Inside Warehouse 47, a man named Goto Hideaki, wanted by 17 countries for trafficking in both weapons and people, sat behind his desk, surrounded by 12 of his most loyal bodyguards. Each guard was a former pro hero who had fallen from grace, their quirks honed by years of combat experience. Goto believed himself untouchable. He had evaded capture for 8 years, always one step ahead of the law. His network spanned 3 continents, and his connections reached into the highest levels of government. When the lights flickered once, he didn't even look up from his ledger. When they flickered twice, his head of security, a man who could turn his skin to diamond, tensed. The third flicker brought darkness. "Night vision, now!" the diamond-skinned guard shouted, but his words died in his throat as lightning split the darkness in a brilliant arc of white and blue. Izuku Midoriya stood in the center of the room, electricity crackling across his pale skin like living serpents. His white hair, inherited from his father, seemed to glow with its own inner light, and his blue eyes held the emptiness of a winter sky. He was 13 years old and had already taken more lives than most career soldiers. "Target Goto Hideaki," Izuku said, his voice carrying the casual tone of someone ordering lunch. "Contracted elimination. Non-negotiable." The guards moved as one, a coordinated assault that would have overwhelmed most opponents. The diamond-skinned man led the charge, his fist capable of shattering concrete. A woman with snake-like appendages struck from the left. A man who could manipulate gravity pulled from the right. Izuku activated Godspeed. The world slowed to a crawl around him. In speed of lightning mode, his body moved on pure instinct, his nervous system transmuted into electrical impulses that bypassed conscious thought. His hand became a blur, fingers extended into claws that his family had spent years conditioning to be harder than steel. The diamond-skinned guard's chest cavity opened like a grotesque flower. Izuku's hand emerged holding the man's heart, still beating once, twice, then still. The body hadn't even begun to fall before Izuku was already moving, his speed creating after-images, rhythm echo, his father called it, that confused the remaining guards. "There's 3 of him! No, 5! Shoot everything!" Quirk-based attacks filled the air, fire, ice, concussive force, but Izuku danced between them, his movements a perfect fusion of economy and lethality. A lightning palm to the throat crushed a windpipe. A casual swipe of his claws severed a spine. When one guard tried to run, Izuku's yo-yo, 50 kilograms of reinforced metal on a retractable wire, caught him in the back of the skull with a wet crunch. The entire engagement lasted 14 seconds. Goto Hideaki had managed to draw a gun, a futile gesture. Izuku appeared before him, the air itself seeming to warp from his speed. He caught the weapon in one hand and crushed it like paper. "Wait," Goto stammered, his face pale. "I can pay more than whoever hired you. Double. Triple." Izuku tilted his head, considering. "You're offering me money to break a contract? Do you have any idea what that would do to my family's reputation?" He smiled, and it was the smile of a child who had just been offered candy. Besides, the people you hurt, kids mostly, right? Trafficking is so gross. Please. The lightning palm struck faster than thought, electrical current stopping Goto's heart instantly. The man slumped forward, smoke rising from the point of contact. Izuku pulled out his phone, a custom model untraceable, and snapped a photo of the body. Proof of completion. His handler would forward it to the client, and payment would be transferred to the family account. Another job finished. Another name crossed off someone's list. He was about to leave when his phone buzzed. A message from his father. Time to come home. We need to talk about your future. Izuku frowned. His future? He was the Midoriya family's greatest prodigy in 3 generations, a master of assassination techniques that most adults couldn't comprehend. What more was there to discuss? Still, when father summoned, you answered. He vanished into the rain, leaving only the dead and the smell of ozone behind. Ozone. The Midoriya estate sprawled across 50 acres of mountainside, hidden behind layers of security that made Fort Knox look like a children's playground. Motion sensors, automated turrets, quirk-nullifying fields, and enough buried explosives to level a small city protected the family's ancestral home. The main house itself was a fusion of traditional Japanese architecture and modern brutalist design, elegant wooden beams meeting reinforced concrete bunkers. Izuku passed through the security checkpoints without breaking stride. The systems recognized his biometric signature and electrical aura before he came within 100 meters. He nodded to his older sister, Eri, who was practicing her quirk manipulation in the training yard. Her ability to rewind living matter made her invaluable for the family business. Injuries that would cripple normal people healed in seconds under her touch. How was Yokohama? She called out. Wet, Izuku replied, allowing himself a small smile. And profitable. Inside, the house was quiet. His mother, Inko, was probably in her study, coordinating the family's various contracts and maintaining their network of contacts. Despite her gentle appearance and emotional nature, Inko Midoriya was one of the most ruthless contract negotiators in the underworld. She could quote prices for eliminations over afternoon tea with the same warmth she used discussing the weather. His father, Hisashi Midoriya, waited in the traditional meeting room. Hisashi was a mountain of a man, his presence filling any space he occupied. His quirk, Dragon's Breath, allowed him to exhale flames hot enough to melt steel, but it was his mastery of assassination techniques, passed down through generations, that made him truly terrifying. He had personally trained Izuku since the boy could walk. Sit, Hisashi said without preamble. Izuku knelt across from his father, noting the unusual tension in the older man's shoulders. Whatever this was about, it was significant. Your performance continues to exceed expectations, Hisashi began. 14 seconds for 12 guards and a primary target. Efficient, clean, professional. He paused, pouring tea for both of them. But efficiency alone doesn't explain why I called you here. Izuku waited. His father appreciated silence more than empty words. You're 13 years old, Izuku. In our world, you've already achieved more than most assassins accomplish in a lifetime. You've completed 47 contracts without a single failure. Your mastery of Godspeed is unprecedented. Even I couldn't achieve that level of control at your age. Hisashi's eyes, dark and fathomless, locked onto his son's. But I've been watching you after missions. Something is changing. I don't understand, Izuku said carefully. Don't you? Hisashi set down his teacup with deliberate precision. After the last 5 eliminations, you've taken longer to decompress. You spend hours analyzing the target's backgrounds, their connections, their families. You're asking questions that an assassin shouldn't ask. Izuku felt a chill run down his spine. His father missed nothing. I'm not questioning the contracts, Izuku said. I complete every mission exactly as specified. I know. That's not what concerns me. Hisashi leaned forward. Izuku, our family has maintained its position for 200 years because we understand a fundamental truth. We are necessary. Heroes are bound by laws, by public opinion, by moral constraints. They cannot eliminate the threats that hide in society's shadows. We can. We do. Without us, the world would be darker, more chaotic. I understand that. Do you? Because I think you're starting to wonder if there's another path, a different way to live. Hisashi's expression softened almost imperceptibly. You're my son and you're brilliant, but you're also still a child, and children need more than just blood and contracts." The words hung in the air between them. Izuku realized his father had seen something he'd barely acknowledged himself, a growing restlessness, a curiosity about the world beyond the estate's walls. He had grown up surrounded by death and efficiency, taught that emotions were tools and empathy a weakness. But lately he'd found himself wondering what it would be like to have friends who weren't fellow assassins, to go to school, to be normal. "What are you suggesting?" Izuku asked. "UA High School." Izuku blinked. "The Hero Academy?" "The premier hero academy in Japan," Hisashi corrected. "A place where you could learn to interact with peers, develop your abilities in new directions, and, most importantly, choose your own path. If you graduate and decide to return to the family business, you'll do so because you want to, not because it's all you've ever known. And if you choose to become a hero," he paused, "then our family will have someone on the inside of hero society, an advantage we've never had." The strategic angle made sense, but Izuku suspected his father's motives went deeper than mere tactical positioning. Hisashi Midoriya, feared assassin and patriarch of a legendary murder family, was giving his son a choice. "What about the entrance exam?" Izuku asked. "UA doesn't exactly test for assassination skills." Hisashi smiled, a rare expression that made him look almost approachable. "I have complete faith in your ability to adapt. Besides, the exam is designed to test combat ability and heroic spirit. You have the former in abundance, and as for the latter..." He stood, signaling the conversation's end. "Perhaps that's what you'll discover. And if the other students find out who I am, what my family does, they won't unless you tell them. The Midoriya name is known in certain circles, but we've always been careful to maintain separation between our public face and our true work. Officially, we're a wealthy family with business interests in security consulting. Your records will show a normal, if privileged, upbringing." Hisashi moved toward the door, then paused. "One more thing. There's someone I want you to meet tomorrow. A boy your age with a wind quirk. His name is Inasa Yoarashi." "Another contract?" "A potential friend." Inasa Yoarashi was enthusiasm given human form. From the moment Izuku met him at the neutral training ground his father had arranged, the boy radiated an almost overwhelming energy that seemed at odds with everything Izuku had been taught about efficiency and emotional control. "Hello!" Inasa shouted, his voice carrying across the field with enough force to rustle the trees. "You must be Izuku Midoriya. I've heard so much about you. Your father says you're incredible. This is amazing. I've never had a training partner before. Well, I've had training, obviously, but not a partner. Someone my age who can really push me. This is going to be wonderful." Izuku stared at the taller boy. Inasa had at least 10 centimeters on him and felt something he hadn't experienced in years, complete bewilderment. How could someone be this enthusiastic about everything? "Nice to meet you," Izuku said cautiously. "My father said you have a wind quirk?" "Whirlwind," Inasa demonstrated, and suddenly a tornado of air surrounded him, powerful enough to carve furrows in the ground. "I can control wind currents, create updrafts, pressure waves, all sorts of things. What about you? What's your quirk?" "Can we spar?" "I bet you're amazing!" Something about Inasa's genuine excitement pierced through Izuku's carefully maintained emotional barriers. This boy wasn't trying to impress anyone or gain advantage. He was just happy. Happy to be here, happy to meet someone new, happy to exist. "My quirk is called Godspeed," Izuku said, and before Inasa could respond, he vanished. The electrical aura around Izuku's body intensified as he activated Speed of Lightning mode. He appeared behind Inasa, hand extended in what would be a lethal strike if this were a real engagement, but he stopped the blow a centimeter from the back of Inasa's neck. "In a real fight, you'd be dead," Izuku said clinically. Instead of being intimidated, Inasa spun around with a grin that could light up a city. "That was incredible. I didn't even see you move. Can you do that again? How does it work? Is it pure speed or do you actually teleport?" "Wait, don't answer. Let me try to figure it out through fighting." Wind erupted around Inasa in a defensive sphere, and Izuku found himself impressed. The boy's reaction time was excellent, and his quirk control showed significant training. When Inasa sent a pressure blade of compressed air toward him, Izuku dodged with rhythm echo, creating 3 afterimages that confused his opponent. Whoa, there's more than one of you now! Afterimages, Izuku explained, feeling an unfamiliar urge to share technique details. Moving fast enough that your eyes can't track the transitions. It's one of the basic assassination techniques. Assassination techniques? Inasa's enthusiasm didn't diminish. So you're from one of those families! That's so cool. I mean, not cool like killing people is good, but cool like, wow! You must have amazing training. My family just runs a regular dojo, but they're passionate about it, which is what matters. They spent the next 3 hours sparring, and Izuku discovered something unexpected. He was having fun. Inasa pushed him in ways that Contracts never did, because the other boy was genuinely trying to improve, not just survive. When Inasa landed a solid wind blast that sent Izuku sliding back 20 meters, the dark-haired boy whooped with joy. I hit you! That was incredible! You're so fast, but I managed to predict your movement pattern. This is wonderful, again! By the end of their session, both boys were exhausted and grinning. Inasa had collapsed on the grass, chest heaving, while Izuku sat cross-legged nearby, his electrical aura still crackling faintly. You're really strong, Izuku said honestly. Your quirk control is impressive, and you've got good instincts. Thanks, but you're on another level entirely. Inasa sat up, his expression becoming unexpectedly serious. Izuku, can I ask you something? Sure. Why do you fight? I mean, I fight because I love it. I love the passion, the intensity, the feeling of pushing myself beyond my limits. But you fight like it's second nature, like breathing. What drives you? No one had ever asked Izuku that question. In his world, the answer was obvious. You fought because it was your purpose, your family duty, your means of survival. But Inasa's question dug deeper, touching on the same restlessness his father had identified. I don't know, Izuku admitted. I've been training to be an assassin since I could walk. It's what I'm good at, what I was born to do. But lately, he trailed off, unsure how to articulate the feeling. You wonder if there's more? Inasa suggested gently. Yeah. Then let's find out together. Inasa's enthusiasm returned full force. I heard about this school, UA High, the best hero academy in Japan. We should both try to get in. Think about it. We could learn new techniques, meet new people, test ourselves against the strongest students in the country. Doesn't that sound amazing? Izuku thought about his father's suggestion, about the choice he'd been given. And he thought about Inasa's infectious passion, the way the other boy approached life like it was an adventure to be embraced rather than a series of contracts to be completed. Yeah, Izuku said, a genuine smile crossing his face. It does. That was the beginning of their brotherhood. Over the next months, Izuku and Inasa trained together almost every day. Inasa taught Izuku about passion and enthusiasm, about approaching challenges with joy rather than clinical efficiency. Izuku taught Inasa about strategy and precision, about reading opponents and exploiting weaknesses. More importantly, Inasa became the first real friend Izuku had ever had. Someone who knew about his family background and didn't care. Someone who saw past the assassin to the person underneath. When they hung out in the city, eating at ramen shops or browsing game stores, Izuku felt something he'd never experienced before. Normalcy. You know what we need? Inasa said one day, his mouth full of chocolate parfait. Izuku had discovered that both boys shared an incurable sweet tooth. A goal, something to push toward together. UA's entrance exam is in 8 months, Izuku pointed out. Exactly. So let's make a promise. Inasa extended his fist. We'll both get into UA, and we'll both become the strongest in our class. Not the strongest individually, the strongest together. Because brothers who push each other always go further than people working alone. Izuku looked at the offered fist, then at Inasa's earnest face. In his world, promises were contracts, and contracts were binding. But this felt different. This felt like something chosen rather than assigned. He bumped his fist against Inasa's. Deal. UA High School's entrance exam was legendary. Every year, thousands of hopeful students competed for a few dozen spots in the hero course. The exam tested combat ability, quick thinking, rescue instincts, and the indefinable quality that separated true heroes from mere glory seekers. Izuku stood in front of the massive gates, surrounded by nervous teenagers who radiated anxiety like a physical force. He wore a simple black tracksuit that allowed freedom of movement. his white hair tied back in a short ponytail. Beside him, Inasa practically vibrated with excitement. "This is IT," Inasa declared loudly enough that several nearby students jumped. "The beginning of our hero journey. I can feel the passion in the air. Everyone here wants this so badly. Isn't it wonderful?" A nearby boy with purple hair and exhausted eyes muttered, "It's 7 in the morning. Nobody should have that much energy." Izuku suppressed a smile. Over the past months, he'd grown accustomed to Inasa's volume and enthusiasm. It was part of the package, like how Izuku's casual discussions of assassination techniques sometimes made people uncomfortable. They filed into the auditorium where Present Mike, the voice hero and a UA teacher, explained the exam rules with his characteristic volume and enthusiasm. Inasa immediately identified him as a kindred spirit. "Yeah!" Inasa shouted when Present Mike asked if everyone was ready. "We're totally ready." The exam took place in a mock city designated as Battle Center B. Students would face robot villains worth different points: 1-pointers, 2-pointers, and 3-pointers. The goal was to destroy as many as possible in the 10-minute time limit. There was also mention of a 0-point robot that should be avoided, though Izuku filed that detail away as potentially significant. As the gates opened, Izuku activated Godspeed and disappeared. The other students were still processing the starting signal when the first 3-pointer exploded in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Izuku had struck its power core with a lightning-enhanced palm strike, the electrical current frying its circuits instantly. He was already moving to the next target before the first one hit the ground. Rhythm Echo created a quartet of afterimages that surrounded a cluster of robots. Other students watched in awe as what appeared to be 4 Izukus attacked simultaneously, each one dismantling their target with surgical precision. A 1-pointer's head separated from its body. A 2-pointer collapsed as its leg joints were severed with claw strikes. A 3-pointer simply ceased functioning as Izuku's electrical attack overwhelmed its systems. 54 points, Izuku murmured, keeping count casually. The exam was only 2 minutes old. Across the battle center, Inasa was putting on his own display. Massive cyclones of wind tore through groups of robots, the sheer force crumpling their metal frames like paper. Where Izuku was precision and efficiency, Inasa was overwhelming power and passion. "Come on," Inasa shouted at the robots. "Is that all you've got? Show me some spirit." They were dominating the exam when the ground began to shake. The 0-pointer emerged from between buildings. A robot the size of a skyscraper, all metal plating and devastating weaponry. Students screamed and ran, exactly as they were supposed to. But Izuku heard something else, a girl's cry of pain. He turned and saw her, trapped under rubble, her leg caught, unable to escape the approaching 0-pointer. She had brown hair and a determined face streaked with tears of frustration. Other students ran past her, focused on their own survival. Izuku's assassin training said to leave her. The 0-pointer was worth no points. Rescuing her gained nothing. Efficiency dictated evacuation. But Inasa's voice echoed in his memory. Heroes don't abandon people. Izuku moved. The world slowed as he activated Speed of Lightning mode, his body covering the distance to the trapped girl in a fraction of a second. He didn't bother with the rubble. His electrical aura flared, and he simply lifted the concrete slab with enhanced strength, tossing it aside like cardboard. "You're okay now," he said, offering her his hand. The girl, Ochaku Araka, though he didn't know her name yet, stared at him with wide eyes. But the robot is about to have a really bad day. Izuku launched himself at the 0-pointer. It was the size of a building, armored like a tank, and absolutely not designed to be defeated by examinees, which made it the perfect challenge. He landed on its leg and ran up its body, electricity crackling across his skin like a living storm. The robot's sensors tracked him, weapon systems targeting, but in Speed of Lightning mode, Izuku was faster than its mechanical reflexes. He reached the head and placed both hands against the metal plating. "Thunderbolt," he whispered. A massive surge of electrical energy discharged directly into the robot's central processor. Lights flickered and died. Systems crashed in cascading failure. The 0-pointer toppled backward with a groan of tortured metal, crashing into an empty building in a cloud of dust and debris. The exam arena went silent. Present Mike's voice crackled over the speakers, unusually subdued. "And time's up. All students, please proceed to the exit." Izuku landed lightly next to Uraraka, who was staring at him like he'd just sprouted wings. Can you walk? Yes, thank you. She seemed to remember something. But you lost points helping me. You could have gotten more robots. Had enough already, Izuku said with a shrug. Actually, he'd accumulated 112 points before stopping to help her, but that seemed like bragging. Are you okay? That's what matters. Inasa jogged over, grinning widely despite being covered in dust and scorch marks. Izuku, that was incredible. You took down the big one. I was going to try, but you got there first. How many points did you get? I think I got around 80. 112, Izuku said quietly. Inasa's eyes widened. Then he laughed and clapped Izuku on the shoulder hard enough to stagger a normal person. Of course you did. That's my best friend. We're definitely getting in. The acceptance letter arrived exactly 1 week later. Izuku opened it in his room, watched the holographic projection of All Might, the symbol of peace himself, announce his acceptance with characteristic enthusiasm. 112 villain points and 60 rescue points for saving Uraraka without hesitation. He'd scored first in the entire exam. Inasa had placed third with 81 villain points and 50 rescue points. When they compared results over a video call, Inasa was ecstatic. We did it! We're going to UA together! This is the start of something amazing! Izuku's mother cried when she heard the news, happy tears, though she tried to hide them. His father nodded with quiet approval. Even Eri seemed impressed, though she maintained that her rewinding quirk was still cooler than his lightning. The family business continued during the months before school started. Izuku completed 3 more contracts, a corrupt hero who'd been using his position to traffic in illegal quirk enhancement drugs, a villain organization leader who specialized in child abduction, and a rogue scientist creating bioweapons. Each elimination was efficient and clean, but Izuku found himself analyzing them differently now, viewing his targets through the lens of how heroes would handle the same situations. Heroes would arrest them, he realized, gather evidence, build cases, work within the legal system. It would take longer, it would be messier, but it would also be public, acknowledged, praised. Assassins worked in shadows, heroes stood in the light. He wasn't sure which he preferred. The first day of UA arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, gentle breeze, temperature ideal for the season. Izuku walked through the gates wearing his new uniform, Inasa beside him radiating enough enthusiasm to power a small city. Class 1A, Inasa bellowed, reading their class assignment. We're in the same class. Of course we are. The universe knew we belonged together. Class 1A's door was massive, designed to accommodate students with size-altering quirks, Izuku assumed. He slid it open to find several students already present. A boy with spiky blonde hair and red eyes sat with his feet on the desk, scowling at nothing in particular. A girl with pink skin and horns chatted animatedly with someone Izuku recognized, Ochako Uraraka, the girl he'd saved during the exam. And there was a girl who immediately caught his attention. She sat near the window, posture perfect, reading what appeared to be a textbook on hero law. Her black hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her dark eyes held an intelligence that reminded Izuku of his mother, the same sharp awareness that missed nothing. She wore the UA uniform like it was formal wear at a state function, every detail perfectly arranged. Hello, classmates! Inasa's voice boomed. I'm Inasa Yorashi, and I'm passionate about becoming the greatest hero. This is going to be wonderful. Several students jumped. The blonde boy's scowl deepened. The girl by the window looked up from her book, and for a brief moment her eyes met Izuku's. Momo Yaoyorozu had spent her entire life being the best. Top marks in every subject. Master of her quirk, creation, which allowed her to produce any non-living object from her body's lipids. Trained in strategy, combat, and leadership by private tutors since childhood. She had entered UA expecting to excel, to demonstrate her superiority, to prove herself worthy of her family's legacy. She had not expected someone like Izuku Midoriya. The white-haired boy who entered with the enthusiastic wind user moved differently than everyone else. His footsteps made no sound. His posture suggested casual relaxation, but Momo's trained eye caught the coiled readiness underneath. He scanned the room in a sweep that lasted less than a second, yet clearly cataloged every student, every exit, every potential threat. Then his blue eyes met hers, and Momo felt something she rarely experienced: uncertainty. Those eyes held depths she couldn't read. Intelligence, certainly. Confidence, absolutely. But also something else. Something cold and distant, like staring into winter sky. This was someone who had seen things, done things, experienced the world in ways she couldn't imagine. "I'm Izuku Midoriya," he said simply, his voice quiet compared to his friend's volume. "Looking forward to working with everyone." Before anyone could respond, a sleeping bag on the floor stirred. A disheveled man emerged, his hair wild and his expression suggesting he'd rather be anywhere else. "Took you all 8 seconds to quiet down," the man said. "That's not rational. I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. Get changed and meet me at ground beta. We're doing a quirk assessment test." The Quirk Assessment Ground Beta was an outdoor training area with various stations designed to test different aspects of quirk performance. Aizawa explained the rules with his characteristic bluntness. They would complete 8 tests: 50-meter dash, grip strength, standing long jump, repeated side steps, ball throw, distance running, sit-ups, and seated toe touch. Students would use their quirks freely, and results would be ranked. "Oh, and the person who places last will be expelled," Aizawa added casually. "Welcome to UA's Hero Course." The announcement sent ripples of shock through the class. Uraraka looked pale. A boy with purple balls for hair started sweating profusely. Even Momo's confident expression wavered slightly. Izuku just smiled. Pressure was familiar. Stakes were comfortable. This was a test, and tests could be won. "Midoriya," Aizawa called out, "you scored first in the entrance exam. Step up for the ball throw demonstration." Izuku took the softball, feeling its weight in his hand. A simple test. Throw the ball as far as possible using your quirk. Around him, students watched with varying degrees of curiosity and competitiveness. The blonde boy, Katsuki Bakugo, according to the class roster, sneered. "First place in the exam? Let's see if you can back it up." Izuku activated Godspeed Whirlwind mode. Where speed of lightning was automatic reaction, whirlwind was manual control. Electricity flooded his muscles, enhancing strength and speed beyond human limits. He wound up and threw, the ball leaving his hand with a crack like thunder. It disappeared into the sky, a white streak against blue. 705 meters, Aizawa announced, checking his device. His expression remained neutral, but something shifted in his posture, increased attention. Interesting. The tests continued. Izuku dominated every category. 50-meter dash, 2.3 seconds using speed of lightning mode. The other students barely registered his movement. Grip strength, 340 kilograms with electrical enhancement. The machine nearly broke. Standing long jump, cleared the sandbox entirely, landing in the grass beyond. For the distance run, he simply maintained a steady pace that would have qualified for Olympic records. Electrical enhancement making endurance essentially unlimited. Inasa performed admirably, his wind quirk giving him 3rd place overall. Momo placed 2nd with intelligent application of her creation quirk, making springs for jumping, grips for strength tests, propulsion devices for throwing. But Izuku was first by a margin that made comparison almost meaningless. During a break between tests, Momo approached him. "Your quirk," she said without preamble. "Godspeed. It's electricity manipulation combined with speed enhancement?" "Something like that," Izuku replied, pulling out a chocolate bar from his pocket. He offered her half automatically. Sharing food was something Inasa had taught him friends did. She accepted it with a slight smile that transformed her serious expression into something warmer. "Your efficiency is remarkable. No wasted movement. Perfect energy conservation. Did you have specialized training?" "You could say that." Izuku wasn't ready to explain that his training involved learning to kill people before he could read. "What about you? Creation is a powerful quirk, but it requires extensive knowledge to use effectively. I've studied molecular structures and chemical compositions since I was young," Momo said, a hint of pride entering her voice. "The more I understand about what I'm creating, the more efficiently I can produce it." "Smart," Izuku said honestly. "Most people would just create things randomly. You're strategic." The compliment made Momo's cheeks color slightly. "Thank you. That means quite a bit, coming from the person who scored 700 meters on the ball throw." Their conversation was interrupted by Katsuki Bakugo's explosive arrival. "Midoriya," he snarled, small explosions popping from his palms. I don't know who you are or where you came from, but I'm going to surpass you. I'm going to be number one, not some quiet freak with weird hair. Izuku regarded him calmly. Bakugo reminded him of clients who talk too much before assassinations, all bluster and ego with the self-awareness of a brick. Still, his quirk was strong, and his competitive drive was admirable in its way. Looking forward to it, Izuku said mildly. Competition makes people stronger. Bakugo seemed thrown by the lack of reaction. He'd clearly expected anger or fear. When neither appeared, he stomped away, muttering about damn extras, and showing them all. He's intense, Momo observed. He's insecure, Izuku corrected. People who are genuinely confident don't need to announce it constantly. But he's got potential, raw power, and decent instincts. You sound like you're analyzing a combat opponent. Izuku realized he'd slipped into assassin evaluation mode without thinking. Just observing, he said quickly. Habit from training. Momo studied him with those intelligent eyes, and Izuku had the uncomfortable feeling she saw more than he intended. But she just smiled and said, well, your observations are accurate. I look forward to seeing how everyone develops. The assessment concluded with Aizawa announcing, to everyone's relief, that the expulsion threat had been a logical ruse to push them to their limits. Izuku had suspected as much. UA wouldn't accept students just to expel them on day one. Final rankings placed Izuku first, Momo second, Inasa third, Todoroki fourth, and Bakugo fifth. The rest of the class spread out below them, with a nervous boy named Mineta bringing up the rear at 20th place. Decent performance, Aizawa said, though his tone suggested anything but enthusiasm. You've all got potential, or you wouldn't be here, but potential means nothing without work. Tomorrow, we start real training. Go home, rest, prepare yourselves. As students filed out, Inasa threw an arm around Izuku's shoulders. First place, obviously. You were amazing. Did you see how fast you ran? And that ball throw. Everyone's going to remember this day. You did great too, Izuku pointed out. Third place is nothing to dismiss. Third is just the first step toward first. Inasa declared with his characteristic optimism. Besides, having you as a rival makes me want to push harder. This is exactly what I hoped for. Momo walked a few paces behind them, accompanied by Uraraka and a frog-like girl named Tsuyu Asui. Izuku heard fragments of their conversation. Incredibly skilled. So fast I could barely see him. Kind of mysterious, though, Ribbit. Izuku suppressed a smile. Mysterious. If they only knew. The first 2 weeks at UA passed in a blur of classes, training exercises, and social navigation. Izuku found himself adapting to student life more easily than expected. His assassin training made academic subjects trivial, his memory was near perfect, and his analytical mind devoured information like Inasa devoured enthusiasm. Hero basic training with All Might became his favorite class. The symbol of peace taught with infectious energy that even made dry topics like rescue protocols seem exciting. During their first combat training, hero versus villain scenarios in two-person teams, Izuku partnered with Inasa and demolished their opposition in 40 seconds. Their opponents had been Bakugo and a quiet boy with tape-producing quirk named Hanta Sero. The match started with Bakugo charging forward, explosions blazing, while Sero attempted to trap them with tape. Izuku activated Rhythm Echo. 3 afterimages appeared, each one moving independently. Bakugo's explosion hit empty air. Sero's tape caught nothing. The real Izuku appeared behind them both, yo-yo in hand. He'd started carrying it to school, disguised as a simple stress toy. Match over, he said quietly, the yo-yo's wire already wrapped around both opponents before they could react. We captured the villains. All Might laughed his booming laugh. Incredible speed, young Midoriya, though perhaps in a real scenario you'd want to be slightly less efficient and more visible. Heroes inspire confidence in civilians. Izuku nodded, filing away the feedback. Assassins struck from shadows. Heroes stood in light. Different approaches for different purposes. Momo's team, paired with Todoroki, won their match with strategic brilliance. She created flash grenades and smoke bombs, while Todoroki used his ice to control the battlefield. Their opponents never stood a chance. After class, students gathered in the changing rooms, chattering about their performances. Izuku was pulling on his uniform when a commotion erupted nearby. Come on, man, just one little peek. The purple-haired boy from earlier, Mineta, was trying to scale the wall separating the boys' and girls' changing areas. I just want to see. Izuku's hand shot out, catching Mineta by the back of his shirt and yanking him down. That's not appropriate, he said flatly, his voice carrying the same tone he used to explain why targets had violated their contracts. Mineta struggled. Let go. I wasn't doing anything wrong. It's just... You were attempting to invade the girl's privacy, Izuku interrupted, his grip tightening slightly. That's harassment. If you try again, I'll break your fingers. Slowly. One joint at a time. Are we clear? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Izuku's expression hadn't changed, still calm, almost pleasant, but something in his eyes made every word feel like a promise rather than a threat. Crystal, Mineta squeaked. Izuku released him and the small boy scrambled away. Several other students were staring. Dude, a red-headed boy named Kirishima said carefully. That was intense. Harassment is serious, Izuku replied simply. People should feel safe here. Inasa clapped him on the back enthusiastically. Exactly right. Heroes protect people, and that includes protecting their privacy and dignity. Well said, Izuku. The moment passed, but Izuku caught several classmates looking at him with new awareness. He'd shown a glimpse of something beneath his quiet exterior, and they weren't sure what to make of it. Later, in the cafeteria, Momo invited him to sit at her table. Uraraka and Tsuyu were already there, along with a bespectacled boy named Tenya Ida, who spoke like he was constantly delivering formal presentations. I must commend your stance on appropriate behavior, Midoriya, Ida declared, his hand chopping the air for emphasis. As future heroes, we must maintain the highest standards of conduct. Your defense of our female classmates' privacy was most heroic. I just said what needed to be said, Izuku replied, more interested in his lunch, katsudon with extra sauce and a side of chocolate pudding. You have quite the sweet tooth, Momo observed, amused. Sweets are important, Izuku said seriously. Life's too short for boring food. Uraraka giggled. You say the funniest things sometimes, Midoriya. You're so intense during training, but then you talk about chocolate pudding like it's a philosophy. It is a philosophy, Izuku insisted, which made the whole table laugh. Conversation flowed easily after that. Tsuyu, who insisted everyone call her, asked about his training background. Izuku gave vague answers about family martial arts traditions and private tutoring. Momo discussed her own upbringing, mentioning her family's wealth and expectations with a matter-of-fact tone that suggested she was used to the pressure. What made you want to become a hero? Momo asked Izuku directly. With your abilities, you could have pursued many paths. Izuku considered the question carefully. I wanted to choose my own future, he said finally, to see if I could be more than what people expected of me. It was the most honest answer he'd given anyone outside his family, and Momo seemed to recognize the weight behind the words. She nodded slowly. I understand that. Expectations can be limiting. Their eyes met across the table, and Izuku felt something shift between them. A recognition, perhaps. Two people from exceptional backgrounds trying to forge their own paths. Inasa interrupted the moment by accidentally knocking over his juice with an enthusiastic gesture, sending liquid cascading across the table. The chaos that followed, everyone scrambling for napkins, Uraraka floating items out of the juice's path, Tsu's tongue snagging the rolling juice bottle, broke the tension and had everyone laughing. This, Izuku thought, was what normal felt like. Friends, laughter, shared meals, simple moments that had nothing to do with contracts or killing. It was nice. He was going to protect it. 3 weeks into the semester, Aizawa announced they would be taking a field trip to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, a massive training facility designed to simulate various disaster scenarios. All Might and another hero, 13, would assist with the lesson on rescue operations. The students boarded a bus, and Izuku found himself sitting next to Momo, who had become his regular conversation partner during classes. Their discussions ranged from quirk theory to strategy to occasionally normal teenage topics like favorite foods and music preferences. Have you given any thought to your hero name? Momo asked as the bus rumbled toward USJ. Not really, Izuku admitted. Naming yourself feels weird, like you're trying to create a brand or something. It is creating a brand, essentially, Momo said. A hero name is how the public identifies you, how they remember you, and it should reflect your values and abilities. What about you? I've considered several options, Momo said thoughtfully. Creati seemed appropriate. It references my quirk while suggesting creativity and innovation. But I'm not certain yet. It's good, Izuku said. Professional but approachable. Better than. His words cut off as every instinct he possessed screamed danger. They had arrived at USJ and the bus was unloading when reality seemed to tear open in the central plaza. A swirling purple portal materialized and from it emerged figures. Lots of figures. Villains. Aizawa's posture shifted instantly from tired teacher to combat-ready hero. 13. Protect the students. This is a real attack. The villains spread out across USJ like a contamination. Dozens of them, each with dangerous quirks and hostile intent. A man covered in disembodied hands stood at their center, scratching his neck with manic energy. Beside him, the purple portal villain and a massive creature with an exposed brain, clearly some kind of bioengineered monster. Well, the hand-covered man said, his voice carrying across the facility. We came looking for All Might, but I suppose we can make do with his students. Nomu, kill them. The brain creature, Nomu, moved faster than something that size should be able to. It crossed the distance to the students in a blur and struck at Aizawa, who barely managed to dodge while activating his erasure quirk. But there were too many villains. They were surrounding the students, cutting off exits, preparing to attack children who had been training for less than a month. Izuku's mind shifted into combat mode. Threat assessment. 40+ hostiles of varying danger levels. Primary threats. Nomu, enhanced strength and speed, unknown additional capabilities. Hand villain, unknown quirk, likely dangerous given his leadership position. Portal villain, spatial manipulation, highly dangerous for positioning. Objective, protect classmates, neutralize threats, survive until reinforcements arrive. Time to action, now. Everyone get behind me, Izuku said quietly, his voice cutting through the rising panic. Electricity began crackling across his skin, white and blue arcs dancing between his fingers. And whatever happens, don't look away. This is what real combat looks like. Inasa immediately moved to his side, wind already swirling around his body. Together, always. The villains charged, whilst Izuku activated Godspeed, Speed of Lightning mode and became Death incarnate. The first three villains didn't even see him move. One moment they were advancing with weapons raised, the next their hearts had been extracted with surgical precision, Izuku's claw techniques ending their lives before pain signals could reach their brains. He didn't pause, didn't slow, didn't hesitate. These weren't practice robots or training exercises. These were real threats attacking his classmates, attacking his friends, attacking everything he'd chosen to build here. And Izuku Midoriya, assassin, student, friend, would tolerate exactly 0% of that. A villain with a fire-breathing quirk opened his mouth to attack. Izuku's lightning palm struck his throat, electrical current cooking him from the inside out. A woman with blade-covered arms tried to slash at Tsuyu. Izuku's yo-yo caught her in the temple with enough force to shatter her skull. Two men with mutation quirks attempted to flank. They died simultaneously as rhythm echo created killing angles from impossible directions. Izuku. Inasa's voice boomed as cyclones of wind tore through groups of villains, sending them crashing into walls hard enough to break bones. There's too many. We need to reduce their numbers, Izuku finished, appearing beside his friend. I know. Stay defensive. Protect the others. He launched himself deeper into the villain formation, a white-haired storm of violence that painted the USJ floor red. His assassin training demanded efficiency. His hero training demanded protection. The fusion of both made him unstoppable. A villain with a spike-covered body tried to impale him. Izuku dodged with millimeters to spare and drove his hand through the man's chest cavity, electricity stopping his heart instantly. Another villain, this one with stone-like skin, charged with confidence born of defensive power. Izuku's Thunderbolt technique, concentrated electrical discharge at maximum output, overloaded the villain's nervous system, dropping him like a puppet with cut strings. Blood and bodies accumulated around Izuku in a growing circle. Some villains tried to run. He didn't let them. In the assassin world, leaving enemies alive meant they could return with reinforcements, gather intelligence, or target you later. Every threat had to be eliminated completely. His classmates watched in horror and awe. This wasn't the quiet, friendly Izuku who shared chocolate and studied them. This was something else. something terrifying and beautiful in its lethality. A weapon given human form, dancing through combat with the grace of someone who'd been ending lives since childhood. Momo created a spear and took down 2 villains approaching from her blind side. Midoriya, the big one, Nomu, is fighting a Racerhead. He can't. Izuku was already moving. Aizawa was losing. The teacher was skilled, incredibly so, but Nomu had been engineered to counter heroes. It absorbed impacts that should have shattered bones, it regenerated damage faster than it could accumulate, and it was strong enough to break concrete with casual swipes. Worse, the hand villain, who'd identified himself as Shigaraki, was cackling on the sidelines. Nomu has shock absorption. Physical attacks don't work. He was made to kill All Might. A student can't. Izuku hit Nomu with a thunderbolt at full power. Electricity wasn't a physical attack. It bypassed shock absorption entirely, flooding Nomu's nervous system with enough voltage to power a small town. The creature seized, its regeneration struggling to repair the electrical damage as fast as Izuku inflicted it. "New plan," Izuku said, his voice cold. "I kill your monster. Then I kill you. Sound good?" Shigaraki's eyes widened behind his hand mask. "Kurogiri, the portal." The portal villain, Kurogiri, tried to warp Izuku away, but in speed of lightning mode, Izuku's body moved on instinct before the portal could fully form. He danced between dimensions, untouchable, unreachable. "Impressive reflexes," Kurogiri acknowledged. "But how long can you maintain?" Inasa's wind blast sent Kurogiri tumbling, disrupting his concentration. "Leave my best friend alone." The battle became chaos. Izuku fighting Nomu with electrical attacks that the creature couldn't absorb. Inasa providing cover and crowd control, his wind keeping smaller villains from interfering. Other students rallying, Todoroki's ice freezing groups of enemies, Bakugo's explosions forcing villains back, Momo creating weapons and distributing them to classmates. Then the doors exploded inward. "I am here!" All Might's voice boomed across the facility, and the symbol of peace himself appeared, his muscular form radiating heroic presence. His expression, however, was dark with fury as he saw injured students and Aizawa's battered form. "What have you done?" The battle shifted instantly. All Might was beyond anything the villains had prepared for, even with Nomu. He grabbed the engineered creature and began pummeling it with blows that generated shockwaves. But Izuku noticed something others missed. All Might was slowing. His movements, imperceptible to most observers, showed microsecond delays. His breathing pattern had changed. Something was wrong. "Midoriya!" Momo called out. "The portal villain is trying to escape." Kurogiri had indeed started retreating, preparing to warp away. Shigaraki scratched his neck frantically. "This isn't how it was supposed to go. We had a plan," Sensei said. Izuku made a decision. He couldn't let these villains escape to attack again. Couldn't let them report back about student capabilities and weaknesses. Couldn't allow threats to persist when elimination was an option. His body moved before his hero training could object. Speed of lightning carried him to Kurogiri faster than thought. His hand, hardened through years of conditioning, struck the portal villain's physical form, which he'd identified as a neck area surrounded by metal plating. Kurogiri collapsed, unconscious but alive. Izuku had pulled the strike at the last second, his assassin instincts screaming to kill but his hero training demanding restraint. Shigaraki screamed in rage and lunged at Izuku, his hand outstretched. Whatever his quirk was, Izuku's instincts said that touch would be fatal. He dodged, but not before Shigaraki's fingers grazed his uniform sleeve. The fabric disintegrated instantly, turned to dust by some kind of decay quirk. "Decay," Shigaraki hissed. "5 fingers and you're gone. Just dust, just nothing. And your friends will follow. Everyone will follow. This whole broken world will..." All Might's fist caught Shigaraki in the gut, sending the villain flying backward. "You will not threaten my students." The symbol of peace stood between Izuku and Shigaraki, his presence alone enough to make the villain pause. Reinforcements arrived. Other pro-heroes drawn by the emergency signal. The fight was over. Villains who had survived, fewer than half of the original number, were being arrested. Nomu had been subdued barely by All Might's overwhelming power. Shigaraki and what remained of his consciousness were dragged away, still ranting about decay and destruction. The students gathered in the bus, shell-shocked and exhausted. 13 had been injured, protecting them. Aizawa was in bad shape, his arm broken and his face bruised beyond recognition. Several students had minor injuries, and Izuku stood apart, his uniform splattered with blood, none of it his, electricity still crackling faintly across his skin. Izuku, Inasa said quietly, approaching his friend. I've never seen you fight like that, not even in training. Those were real enemies, Izuku replied, his voice flat. Real combat. It's different from exercises. Momo joined them, her expression troubled. Midoriya, you killed them, several of them. I saw. They were attacking students, Izuku said, meeting her eyes. Attacking you. What was I supposed to do? I don't know, Momo admitted. But the way you moved, the way you fought, that wasn't hero training. That was something else. Izuku felt the weight of her gaze, the questions forming behind her intelligent eyes. He'd revealed too much, been too efficient, shown too clearly that his background wasn't normal martial arts training. My family has particular methods, he said carefully. We train for real threats, not simulated ones. I'm sorry if it was disturbing. It wasn't disturbing, Momo said softly. It was effective, decisive. You saved lives today. But I wonder, she paused, who are you really? Izuku Midoriya, the student who shares chocolate and helps with homework, or the person I saw fighting today? Can't I be both? I suppose that's what I'm trying to figure out. The bus ride back to campus was silent. Students processed what they'd experienced. Some cried. Others sat in shocked silence. Bakugo surprisingly looked thoughtful rather than angry. All Might had disappeared immediately after the fight, leaving cleanup to other heroes. Aizawa had been rushed to the hospital. The day that was supposed to be about rescue training had become something far darker. Yue went into lockdown mode, security increased. Classes were suspended for 2 days while the incident was investigated. Parents were notified. The media went insane with speculation about villain infiltration. Izuku sat in his dorm room that evening, staring at his hands. They were clean. He'd washed them thoroughly, but he could still feel the blood. Still remember the efficient way he'd ended lives, the cold calculation that had governed every strike. This was what he was, what his family had made him, a killer who could smile and share food and make friends, but underneath, always a killer. His phone buzzed. A message from his father. Saw the news. Well handled. The family is proud. Another message. This one from Inasa. You okay? Want to talk? I'm here if you need me. And a third from Momo. Thank you for protecting everyone today. We should discuss what happened when you're ready, not as interrogation, as friends. Izuku stared at the 3 messages, 3 different aspects of his life. Family, brotherhood, friendship. The question was whether all 3 could coexist, or if choosing hero path meant leaving parts of himself behind. He didn't have an answer yet, but he had time to figure it out. The UA campus felt different in the days following the USJ attack. Security drones patrolled the grounds. Teachers were more alert. Students walked in groups, jumpier than before. The reality that villains would actively hunt them had shattered the illusion of safety that academic environments usually provided. Class 1A held an emergency meeting in their homeroom, organized by Ida in his capacity as class president, a position he'd won through a democratic vote that Izuku had abstained from, preferring to avoid leadership roles that drew attention. We need to discuss what happened, Ida announced, his hand-chopping gestures more subdued than usual, and how we, as a class, will move forward. Students shifted uncomfortably. Uraraka's usual cheerfulness had dimmed. Tsuyu looked pensive, her finger on her chin in her characteristic thinking pose. Even Bakugo seemed less explosive, more introspective. Midoriya killed people, Mineta said quietly, voicing what everyone was thinking. Actually killed them. I saw it. We all saw it. Eyes turned to Izuku, who sat in his usual seat by the window. He'd expected this conversation and had prepared for it mentally. These were his classmates, future heroes who saved lives rather than ending them. They deserved honesty, or at least as much as he could provide without revealing his family's true nature. I did what was necessary, Izuku said calmly. Those villains came to kill us. Kill you. Every single one of them would have murdered students without hesitation if given the chance. I eliminated the threat. But heroes don't kill, a student named Koji Koda said softly, his gentle nature evident even in his concern. We capture villains. The justice system handles punishment. Heroes operating in public with media coverage and legal oversight don't kill, Izuku corrected. But there are situations where that luxury doesn't exist. When it's you or them, when innocent lives are at stake, when waiting for the perfect legal solution means people die. What do you do? The question hung in the air. Several students looked uncomfortable with the moral complexity. Todoroki spoke up, his voice even and analytical. Midoriya has a point. The villains had lethal intent. They weren't there to rob or make a statement. They came to murder All Might and anyone in their way. Traditional hero protocols assume a certain level of restraint from villains that didn't exist in that situation. But where's the line? Momo asked, her analytical mind grappling with the ethics. If we start deciding who deserves death and who deserves capture, aren't we becoming judges and executioners? Isn't that exactly what villains do? Decide that their judgment supersedes society's laws? The line, Izuku said carefully, is threat assessment. If someone can be subdued safely, you subdue them. If subduing them puts innocent lives at risk, you eliminate the threat. It's not about judgment or morality. It's about protecting people. Inasa jumped to his feet, his characteristic enthusiasm returning. Izuku protected us. He did what he had to do. I don't like that people died either, but those villains made their choice when they attacked students. Izuku made sure we could go home to our families. That's what matters. Several students nodded, appreciating Inasa's straightforward perspective. Others still looked troubled. I need to know something, Bakugo said suddenly. His red eyes locked on Izuku. When you were fighting, you weren't scared. You weren't hesitant. You moved like you'd done it before. Killing, I mean. That wasn't your first time. It wasn't a question. It was an observation from someone whose combat instincts were sharp enough to recognize experience when he saw it. Izuku met Bakugo's gaze directly. My family trains me in real combat scenarios. Full contact, full intensity. We don't pull punches or use safety equipment. My father believes that training should reflect reality, and reality is often violent. It was technically true, just carefully phrased to avoid mentioning that reality in his family meant assassination contracts. That's hardcore, Kirishima said, his expression mixing respect with concern. But effective, obviously. You saved a lot of lives. The question isn't whether Midoriya's actions were effective, Momo interjected. It's whether we, as a class of future heroes, are comfortable with lethal force being an option. Because this sets a precedent. If one of us kills in combat, it normalizes that choice for others. I'm not asking anyone to follow my example, Izuku said. You all have your own moral compasses and training. What I did reflects my background and my assessment of this assessment of the situation. But I won't apologize for keeping you alive. The discussion continued for another hour, students wrestling with complex questions that didn't have easy answers. Eventually, Ida called for a vote. Not on whether Izuku's actions were right or wrong, but on whether the class would support each other regardless of the difficult decisions they might face in the future. The vote was unanimous in favor. We're a class, Ida declared. A team. We may not always agree with each other's methods, but we will support each other's intentions. Midoriya acted to protect us. That intention, at least, is beyond question. As the meeting dispersed, Izuku felt a hand on his shoulder. Momo stood beside him, her expression thoughtful. Walk with me? She asked. They ended up on the school roof, technically off limits, but Momo had created a key that worked on the lock, and neither of them was particularly concerned with minor rule violations after surviving a murder attempt. The city sprawled below them, millions of lights against the darkening sky. Somewhere out there, his family was probably coordinating another contract. Heroes were patrolling streets. Villains were planning crimes. Life continued, indifferent to individual struggles. You're not like the rest of us, Momo said after a long silence. And I don't mean that as criticism, just observation. You carry yourself differently, think differently. Even the way you analyze situations, it's not hero training, it's something else. Is that a problem? Izuku asked. I don't know yet, Momo admitted, but I want to understand. You've been kind to me, helpful with studying, patient when I overthink things. You share your chocolate and make terrible jokes about hero costumes. But then I saw you at USJ and it was like watching someone else entirely. Someone who'd been waiting their whole life for permission to be lethal. Izuku considered how much to reveal. Momo was brilliant. She'd piece together inconsistencies if he wasn't careful. But she was also trustworthy and increasingly important to him in ways he was still figuring out. My family is complicated, he said finally. We have connections to parts of society that most people don't see. The underworld, I guess you'd call it. We're not villains, but we're not exactly civilians either. I was raised in an environment where strength was survival and hesitation meant death. Coming to UA was my attempt to find a different path, to see if I could be something other than what I was raised to be. An assassin, Momo said quietly. Izuku's head snapped toward her, eyes wide. What? Your family trains assassins, Momo continued, her analytical mind clearly having connected dots he hadn't realized he'd left exposed. It explains everything. The efficiency, the lack of hesitation, the techniques that prioritize lethality over capture, the way you move, completely silent despite your speed, the clinical assessment of threats. You weren't raised to be a hero, you were raised to be a killer. For a long moment, Izuku considered denying it. But lying to Momo felt wrong in a way that lying to others didn't. Yes, he admitted. My family are elite assassins. We take contracts from governments, hero commissions, organizations that need problems eliminated quietly. I've been training since I was old enough to walk. The USJ wasn't my first real combat. It wasn't even my 10th. Momo absorbed this information with surprising calm. How many people have you killed? Do you really want to know? No, she said after consideration. But I want to know if you regret it. Izuku thought about Godo Hideaki, the trafficker in Yokohama, about the corrupt hero, about the scientist creating bioweapons, about every target his family had eliminated over the years. The ones who deserved it? No. The world is better without them. He paused. But sometimes I wonder if there was another way. If someone smarter or better than me could have found a solution that didn't involve death. That's part of why I came to UA, to learn if heroes have answers that assassins don't. And do they? I'm still figuring that out. Momo moved closer, her shoulder nearly touching his. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. You challenge me to think differently, to question my assumptions, and you protect people, whether as a hero or assassin, that core drive is the same. You're not disgusted? Izuku asked. Afraid? Should I be? Most people would be. I'm not most people, Momo said with a slight smile, and neither are you. Maybe that's why we work well together. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city lights. Izuku felt something shift between them, a deeper understanding, a foundation of honesty that most relationships never achieved. Can I ask you something? Momo said eventually. Sure. The way you look at me sometimes, is it just friendship? Or is there something else? Izuku's heart rate increased, not from danger or combat, but from social uncertainty his assassin training had never prepared him for. I'm not sure how to answer that. I've never really thought about relationships beyond professional or familial, but when I'm around you, I want to be better, smarter, more than just an assassin pretending to be a student. You make me want to actually become the person I'm trying to be. Momo's cheeks colored slightly. That's possibly the most sincere thing anyone's ever said to me. Is that good? Very good. She took his hand, and simple gesture that felt monumental. I like you too, Izuku. The whole you. The brilliant strategist, the protective friend, the boy who hoards chocolate, and yes, even the dangerous assassin who can end threats before they fully materialize. All of it together makes someone extraordinary. Izuku looked down at their joined hands, Momo's fingers elegant and purposeful, his own conditioned and lethal. Two different worlds intersecting. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. Relationships, I mean. My family doesn't exactly provide good examples. We're functional, but not emotional. We'll figure it out together, Momo said. That's what partners do. The word partners resonated. Inasa was his partner in combat and brotherhood. But Momo was becoming something different. Someone who saw all his contradictions and chose him anyway. I'd like that, Izuku said. They stayed on the roof until curfew, talking about everything and nothing. Momo shared her own struggles with expectation and perfectionism. Izuku opened up about the loneliness of his childhood, surrounded by family, but isolated by his role. They discussed their classmates, UA's teaching methods, and their hopes for the future. When they finally headed back to the dorms, something had fundamentally changed. Izuku had a friend who knew his truth. Someone who saw past the hero-student facade to the assassin underneath and accepted both versions as part of the same person. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. Aizawa returned to class 3 days after USJ, his face still bandaged and his arm in a cast, but his glare as sharp as ever. "Sit down and shut up," he ordered before anyone could express concern. The attack happened. We survived. Now we move forward. His resilience set the tone for the rest of the class. Heroes didn't have the luxury of prolonged trauma. They processed, adapted, and continued. Within a week, UA had returned to its regular schedule, though with enhanced security measures. All Might's combat training took on new intensity. He designed scenarios specifically to challenge students' weaknesses, pushing them to develop skills beyond their natural inclinations. For Izuku, this meant learning restraint. Young Midoriya, All Might said privately after one particularly brutal training session where Izuku had unconsciously defaulted to lethal techniques. "Your power and skill are beyond question, but heroes must consider consequences beyond immediate threat elimination. When you defeat a villain lethally, you prevent them from ever reforming, ever contributing to society again, ever being proven wrong about their choices." "Some people don't deserve second chances," Izuku replied, thinking of Shigaraki and his decay quirk. "Perhaps," All Might acknowledged. "But deciding who deserves what isn't our role. We protect people, all people, even villains, from harm when possible. Death is final. We should exhaust every other option first." Izuku struggled with this philosophy. In his world, leaving enemies alive was a strategic error. But he was trying to become a hero, which meant adopting hero values. He began modifying his techniques, finding ways to disable rather than kill. His lightning palms could be adjusted to cause unconsciousness instead of cardiac arrest. His claw techniques could target pressure points that induced paralysis rather than removing hearts. His yo-yo could break bones instead of crushing skulls. It was harder than it sounded. His muscle memory screamed for efficient kills. His training demanded permanence. But he persisted, because Momo's words echoed in his mind. "I like you too, the whole you." Becoming the person he wanted to be meant integrating both halves of himself, the assassin and the hero, into something new. Training against Todoroki proved particularly instructive. The half-ice, half-fire user was phenomenally powerful but emotionally constrained, like refusing to use his fire side for reasons Izuku didn't fully understand. During their match, Izuku deliberately held back, using the opportunity to practice restraint. "You're not using your full speed," Todoroki observed as they circled each other on the training ground. "Neither are you," Izuku countered. "You've got fire. Why only ice? That's none of your concern." "Fair enough." Izuku activated Rhythm Echo, but instead of immediately attacking, he used the afterimages to create openings for conversation. But holding back part of yourself makes you weaker. Whatever your reasons, they're limiting your growth. Todoroki's ice erupted in response, a glacier that would have trapped most opponents. Izuku dodged with speed of lightning and appeared at Todoroki's blind spot, not to strike, but to place a hand on the other boy's shoulder. "Match over," Izuku said quietly. "In real combat, you'd be dead. Not because you're weak, you're strong, but because you're fighting with one arm tied behind your back." Todoroki's expression was unreadable. "My fire side belongs to my father. I won't use his power." "It's not his power," Izuku said. "It's yours. Your quirk, your choice, your potential. Whatever issues you have with your dad, and I'm guessing they're significant, punishing yourself doesn't hurt him. It only hurts you." The words came from his own experience. His family's assassination techniques were part of him, but that didn't mean he had to use them the same way his father did. He could adapt them, reshape them, make them his own. Todoroki didn't respond, but something shifted in his expression. A crack in the ice, perhaps. Their match ended in a draw, both students having demonstrated skill without either achieving decisive victory. All Might praised their restraint and tactical thinking, apparently missing the deeper psychological battle that had occurred. Later, in the cafeteria, Izuku found himself surrounded by an unusual group. Inasa and Momo were his regular lunch companions, but today they were joined by Todoroki, Uraraka, Tsuda, and, surprisingly, Bakugo. "So," Bakugo said without preamble, his lunch tray hitting the table with more force than necessary. "We're doing some kind of study group thing. Yaoyorozu's idea. Since you're apparently a genius or whatever, you're included." "That's surprisingly collaborative of you, Bakugo," Izuku observed. "Katsuki," Bakugo corrected sharply. And I'm not being collaborative, I'm being strategic. If I'm going to surpass you, I need to understand how you think. Studying together accomplishes that. Momo smiled. I prefer to frame it as mutual academic enhancement, but Bakugo's interpretation works too. We're all aiming for the top of our class. Combining our strengths and knowledge bases will benefit everyone. The study group became a regular occurrence. Izuku discovered that teaching others actually helped him understand concepts more deeply. Momo's analytical approach complemented his tactical thinking. Todoroki's methodical study habits provided structure. Bakugo's aggressive questioning forced everyone to defend their positions thoroughly. Inasa provided enthusiasm and surprisingly insightful observations about practical application. Uraraka asked the questions others were afraid to voice. Tsuyu offered grounded, realistic perspectives. Ida maintained organization and discipline. They were becoming more than classmates. They were becoming a unit. They were becoming... When Aizawa announced that UA Sports Festival would proceed despite the recent villain attack, the class erupted in mixed reactions. Some students were excited. The festival was the biggest stage for hero students, watched by millions, and attended by pro-heroes scouting for potential sidekicks and interns. Others were nervous, aware that performing well could make or break their future careers. The world needs to see that UA is still standing strong, Aizawa explained in his typical monotone. The sports festival demonstrates that we won't be intimidated by villain attacks. It's also your opportunity to show pro-heroes what you're capable of. Scouts from every major agency will be watching. Perform well, and you'll have your pick of internship offers. Izuku felt a familiar excitement building. Competition, pressure, stakes. This was the environment where he thrived. But this time, it wasn't about completing a contract. It was about proving himself as a hero student, demonstrating growth beyond his assassin origins. Inasa grabbed his shoulder, grinning wildly. This is perfect. We can show everyone what we've learned. The whole country will see our passion. Try not to blow away the stadium, Izuku suggested. That would make a bad impression. As students discussed strategies and worried about competition, Todoroki approached Izuku directly. Midoriya, he said formally. I need to tell you something. They stepped into the hallway for privacy. Todoroki's expression was serious, more so than usual. I'm going to win the sports festival, Todoroki stated. I'm going to demonstrate that I can reach the top using only my mother's ice power, without relying on my father's fire. I'm telling you this because you're strong, probably the strongest in our class. When we face each other, I'll defeat you with ice alone. Izuku considered the declaration. It was more than simple competitive spirit. This was Todoroki's way of dealing with whatever family trauma drove his quirk restriction. You'll try, Izuku replied, and I'll beat you using everything I have. Not because I don't respect your decision, but because giving anything less than my best would be insulting. You want to prove something to your father? Fine, but you prove it by winning completely, not by hobbling yourself. You don't understand. You're right. I don't understand your specific situation, but I understand family pressure. I understand being raised to fulfill someone else's vision of what you should be. And I understand that the only way to truly break free is to surpass their expectations entirely, not to limit yourself in reaction to them. Todoroki's fists clenched. My father is the number 2 hero. He can't surpass All Might on his own, so he sees me as a tool to create a successor who can. He arranged a quirk marriage, trained me brutally since childhood, all to create his perfect masterpiece. Using my fire side means accepting his vision. Does it? Izuku asked. Or does using your fire side on your own terms for your own goals prove that you've taken his tool and made it your own weapon? He doesn't control your quirk. You do. Every time you choose how to use it, you're proving that you're more than what he tried to make you. Todoroki looked conflicted, clearly wrestling with concepts he'd never fully examined. Think about it, Izuku said. And when we fight in the festival, if we fight, I'm coming at you with everything. You should do the same. Not for your father, for yourself. The conversation ended there, but Izuku suspected it wasn't over. Todoroki was smart. He'd process the argument and reach his own conclusions. Later that evening, Izuku called his father. The sports festival, Hisashi said immediately upon answering. The family will be watching, obviously. This is your stage to demonstrate what our training has achieved. I'm not representing the family, Izuku said carefully. I'm representing myself, Yue, becoming a hero. A long pause. Then, unexpectedly, his father laughed. Good, that's the right answer. If you were still thinking like an assassin, you'd see this as a contract to fulfill rather than an opportunity to grow. I'm proud of you, Izuku. Show them what you can do. The approval felt different than it used to. Not a validation of obedience, but acknowledgement of independence. Izuku spent the next 2 weeks in intensive preparation. He trained his Godspeed modes, pushing the duration he could maintain them. He practiced non-lethal applications of his techniques. He studied his potential opponents, learning their quirks and tendencies. Momo trained alongside him several evenings, creating training equipment tailored to challenge his specific abilities. Their relationship had evolved into something comfortable, romantic in quiet moments, competitive during training, supportive always. You're going to be amazing, Momo said one night as they finished a particularly grueling session. Everyone's going to see what I see, someone extraordinary. Extraordinary is a strong word, Izuku replied, though he smiled at the compliment. It's accurate. She created a towel and tossed it to him. Just promise me something. What? When we face each other, and we probably will, given our rankings, don't hold back. I want to test myself against the real you, not a version who's worried about hurting me. You're asking me to fight you seriously? I'm asking you to respect me enough to treat me like a worthy opponent. Her eyes held determination that Izuku recognized from combat situations. I'm strong, Izuku. I want to prove it. Deal, Izuku agreed, but same goes for you. No hesitation. They shook on it, and Izuku felt the anticipation building. The sports festival would be more than a competition. It would be a declaration of who he was, who he wanted to become, and everything he'd learned at UA. The sports festival begins, Part 1. The day of the UA Sports Festival arrived with perfect weather and massive crowds. The stadium was packed with spectators, civilians, pro heroes, media, and millions more watching broadcasts worldwide. This was Hero Society's biggest stage, and every student felt the pressure. Class 1A gathered in their waiting room, energy levels varying wildly. Inasa was practically vibrating with excitement. Bakugo looked focused and aggressive. Momo reviewed notes with characteristic thoroughness. Todoroki sat apart from everyone, lost in thought. Good luck out there, Uraraka said cheerfully, though her nervousness showed through. Let's all do our best. Yeah! Inasa's shout made several people wince. Let's show everyone the passion of Class 1A. The first event was announced, an obstacle race through a specially designed course featuring various UA-created challenges. All students from all courses would compete simultaneously, with the top 42 advancing to the next round. President Mike's voice boomed across the stadium. And now, for the student pledge. From Class 1A, ranking first in the entrance exam, Izuku Midoriya. Izuku walked to the central platform, aware of thousands of eyes on him. He was supposed to give an inspirational speech about competition and heroism. Instead, he kept it simple. Everyone here worked hard to reach this stage, he said, his voice amplified across the stadium. You've all got something to prove, to the pros, to yourselves, to the world. So prove it. Don't hold back. Don't make excuses. Show everyone exactly who you are. It wasn't flowery or inspirational, but it was honest. The other students nodded in appreciation. Interesting choice of words, young Midoriya. All Might's voice carried from the announcer's booth where he sat with Present Mike. Very pragmatic. The race began with all students crammed into a narrow corridor, a deliberate bottleneck to test how they'd handle disadvantage. Most students immediately activated their quirks in a chaotic scramble for position. Izuku activated Speed of Lightning mode and simply ran along the walls, his electrical enhancement providing the traction needed to defy conventional physics. He cleared the bottleneck in 3 seconds, while other students were still jostling for space. The first major obstacle appeared, massive robots identical to those from the entrance exam. Most students would have to fight or dodge them. Izuku didn't slow down. His Thunderbolt technique discharged at maximum output, creating a chain reaction that fried the circuits of every robot in his path. He passed through the resulting corridor of sparking metal without breaking stride. Behind him, Todoroki demonstrated why he was considered one of the class's top students. A glacial wave of ice froze the robot solid, creating both a path for himself and obstacles for other students. Bakugo blasted through with explosions. Inasa used wind to vault over the entire section. The second obstacle was a massive chasm crossed by tight ropes and platforms. Most students would have to navigate carefully, risking falls or finding creative uses for their quirks. Izuku's yo-yo extended, the weighted end catching a support pillar on the far side. He swung across in one fluid motion, landing lightly and continuing without pause. His time, 7 seconds. Momo was creating a pole vaulting apparatus, demonstrating the quick thinking that made her so formidable. Other students used their quirks creatively. Tsuyu's frog tongue, Uraraka's zero gravity, various mutations and elemental powers. The third obstacle was a literal minefield. Pressure-sensitive explosives hidden beneath sand, marked only by subtle color variations. Izuku's assassin training made this trivial. He'd learned to move across trapped terrain since childhood. His steps found the safe paths with unconscious precision, electrical aura detecting the subtle electromagnetic signatures of the mine's detonators. He crossed the minefield in 23 seconds without triggering a single explosion. The finish line appeared ahead. Izuku could hear Present Mike's commentary growing more excited as he maintained his lead. Midoriya is absolutely dominating. He's not just winning, he's making it look easy. Is anyone going to challenge that lead? Todoroki was close behind, his ice creating paths that bypassed many obstacles. Bakugo was explosively catching up. Inasa's wind propulsion gave him incredible speed. Momo, despite her more methodical approach, was solidly in the top 10. Izuku crossed the finish line first with a total time that would become legendary in UA history. He hadn't just won, he dominated so thoroughly that second place finished nearly a minute behind him. As other students completed the race, 42 total advancing as promised, the scoreboard lit up with rankings. Izuku first, Todoroki second, Bakugo third, Inasa fourth, Momo fifth. Ida's engine quirk had given him 6th place despite the obstacles not favoring pure speed. Incredible performance, Present Mike announced. But we're just getting started. The next event is Cavalry Battle. The rules were explained. Teams of 2 to 4 people, one person as the horse and the others as riders. Each team had point values based on their obstacle race rankings, with first place Izuku worth 10 million points. Teams would compete to steal headbands representing point values, with only the top 4 teams advancing to the final event. Izuku immediately became the primary target. Every student in the stadium wanted those 10 million points. Izuku! Inasa appeared at his side. We're teaming up, obviously. Who else should we recruit? Before Izuku could respond, Momo approached. I'd like to join your team, if you'll have me. My creation quirk can provide tools and equipment we might need. The strategic genius and the powerhouse, Izuku mused. That works. We need one more. Pick me. Todoroki stepped forward, his expression serious. I still intend to defeat you, Midoriya, but if I'm going to face you in the finals, I need to ensure we both get there. This alliance is temporary and strategic. Works for me, Izuku said. Inasa, you're the horse. Your wind quirk can provide mobility and defense. Momo and Todoroki as side riders for offense and support. I'll be the front rider since I'm the target anyway. They formed their team while around them, other alliances coalesced. Bakugo assembled a team clearly designed to hunt Izuku. Uraraka, Tsuyu, and several others formed a defensive unit. The cavalry battle would be chaos. Present Mike's signal started the match, and immediately every team converged on Izuku's position. Now, Izuku commanded. Inasa's wind created a protective cyclone around their team. Todoroki's ice formed barriers that blocked direct approaches. Momo created smoke bombs and flash grenades that she distributed liberally, creating confusion among attacking teams. But they weren't just defending. Izuku's strategy was aggressive counteroffense. Using speed of lightning mode, he darted out from their defensive position, his hands snatching headbands from approaching teams before they could react. Within 30 seconds, he'd collected 6 different headbands worth thousands of points combined. Midoriya, Bakugo's voice roared as his team closed in, explosions propelling them forward with reckless speed. Give me those points. Come and take them, Izuku called back, his competitive spirit flaring. What followed was 3 minutes of absolute chaos. Teams clashed, reformed, dissolved. Points changed hands constantly. Bakugo's team managed to steal one of Izuku's lower-value headbands. Todoroki's ice repeatedly blocked attacks, while Momo created tools ranging from nets to electromagnets. But Izuku's team maintained their core advantage: mobility and protection. Inasa's wind made them nearly impossible to pin down. Todoroki's ice controlled space. Momo adapted to every situation. And Izuku's speed meant he could engage and disengage from any conflict at will. When the final buzzer sounded, 4 teams had accumulated enough points to advance. Izuku's team, 10,000 plus points. Bakugo's team, 615 points. A surprise team led by a support course student named Mei Hatsume, 420 points. And Todoroki's. Wait. Izuku looked at their team composition and realized Todoroki was on his team. The 4th qualifying spot went to a team that included Ida and Uraraka, who'd managed smart defensive play throughout the match. The crowd went wild as results were announced. Izuku's team had essentially dominated so thoroughly that even losing points to theft hadn't mattered. They'd been too mobile, too protected, too coordinated. What a cavalry battle! Present Mike's voice was hoarse from excitement. 4 teams advanced to the finals. But before that, let's take a break while we prepare the final arena. During the break, students scattered to rest and prepare. Izuku found a quiet corner to meditate, a technique his father had taught him for centering focus before critical missions. He was interrupted by footsteps. All Might appeared, looking unusually serious despite his characteristic smile. Young Midoriya, the symbol of peace, said, "May I speak with you privately?" They moved to an empty hallway. All Might's smile faded, and suddenly he didn't look like the invincible symbol anymore. He looked tired. "I've been watching your performance today," All Might began. "Your power, your strategy, your efficiency. It's impressive, beyond impressive. But I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Okay," Izuku said carefully. "Your family, the Midoriyas, I've heard whispers in certain circles about an elite family that handles problems that heroes can't address publicly. Assassins who work in the shadows, maintaining balance through methods society officially condemns but secretly relies upon." All Might's blue eyes locked onto Izuku's. "Is that your family?" For a long moment, Izuku considered lying. But All Might wasn't a fool, and Izuku had enough respect for the man not to insult his intelligence. "Yes," he admitted. "My family are elite assassins. We take contracts from governments and hero commissions to eliminate threats that can't be handled through legal channels. I was trained since childhood to be the family's successor. Coming to UA was my choice to find a different path." All Might didn't look shocked. He'd clearly suspected this already. "And the people you killed at USJ? Threats attacking students. I eliminated them. But you could have subdued them, captured them. You chose to kill." "I chose the most efficient solution that guaranteed your students' safety," Izuku corrected. "Maybe heroes are better than I am. Maybe you could have saved everyone without killing anyone, but I'm not you, I'm me. I made the choice I could live with." All Might sighed deeply, his muscular frame seeming to shrink slightly. "I'm not here to judge you, young Midoriya. Your actions at USJ saved lives. That's undeniable. But I need you to understand something important." "What?" "Being a hero isn't just about power or results. It's about symbols, about showing the world that there's a better way, that justice doesn't require brutality, that we can overcome villains without becoming like them." All Might placed a hand on Izuku's shoulder. "You have incredible potential. You could become one of the greatest heroes of your generation. But you're at a crossroads between the path your family set you on and the path you're choosing now. Don't let the assassin destroy the hero before he has a chance to fully emerge." Izuku absorbed the words, feeling their weight. All Might wasn't wrong. Every time he defaulted to lethal techniques, every time he chose efficiency over mercy, he was choosing the assassin over the hero. "I'm trying," Izuku said quietly, "to be better, to find balance. It's harder than I expected." "The worthwhile things usually are," All Might replied with his genuine smile. Not the public one, but something warmer and more real. "Keep trying, young Midoriya. I believe in you." The symbol of peace left, and Izuku stood alone with his thoughts until Momo found him. "There you are," she said. "The finals are about to start. Tournament format, single elimination matches. You ready?" Izuku looked at her. Brilliant, kind, strategic Momo who knew what he was and chose him anyway. "Yeah," he said. "I'm ready." The final event was announced, a tournament bracket with the top 16 students from earlier events, single elimination matches in front of the entire stadium broadcast worldwide with pro heroes watching every move. Izuku's first match was against a student from Class 1B with a quirk that let him harden his body into steel. The match lasted exactly 8 seconds. Izuku's Thunderbolt technique overloaded the student's nervous system before he could fully activate his defensive power. The crowd gasped at the speed and efficiency. Some cheered, others looked disturbed. Other matches played out across the afternoon. Inasa dominated his opponent with overwhelming wind power. Bakugo blasted through his competition with explosive aggression. Todoroki froze his opponents without using his fire side at all. Momo's match was a masterclass in strategic thinking. She created diversions, traps, tools, and weapons with bewildering speed, outthinking her opponent at every turn. When victory was secured, she helped her defeated opponent up with gracious sportsmanship. The quarterfinals saw Izuku face Ida. The engine quirk user was fast, incredibly so, but Izuku was faster. In Speed of Lightning mode, he was literally moving on electrical impulses. Ida's speed was impressive. Izuku's was supernatural. The match ended with Izuku standing behind Ida, hand on his shoulder. "Good speed," Izuku said honestly. "But you need to be unpredictable. I could track your movement patterns too easily." Ida accepted the advice with characteristic formality. "Thank you, Midoriya. I will incorporate this lesson into my training." The semifinals paired Izuku against Todoroki and Bakugo against Inasa. These would be the real tests. Todoroki stepped into the arena, ice already forming around his right side. His expression was focused, determined, and still conflicted. "I meant what I said," Todoroki announced. "I'm going to defeat you with ice alone." "And I meant what I said," Izuku replied, electricity crackling across his skin. "I'm using everything I have. If you want to win, you'll have to do the same." Present Mike's signal started the match, and Todoroki immediately unleashed a glacial assault that would have frozen most opponents solid. Ice erupted from the ground in jagged spears, the temperature plummeting dramatically. Izuku dodged with rhythm echo, after images freezing while his real body stayed mobile. "Nice power, but you're still limiting yourself." "I don't need his fire," Todoroki shouted, pain evident in his voice. More ice, walls of it filling the arena. Izuku began systematically destroying each ice formation with electrical attacks. "This isn't about your father. This is about you. What kind of hero limits his own potential out of spite? You don't understand." Another wave of ice, this one nearly catching Izuku. "You're right. I don't understand your specific situation." Izuku activated whirlwind mode, electricity flooding his muscles with enhanced strength. He punched through an ice wall, shattering it into glittering fragments. "But I understand being trapped by family expectations. I understand wanting to prove you're more than what they made you. And I understand that the only way to truly win is to surpass them completely, not to limit yourself in reaction to them." Todoroki's ice kept coming, but Izuku could see the conflict in his opponent's eyes. The ice was strong, but it wasn't enough. It would never be enough as long as Todoroki fought with half his power. "Use your fire," Izuku roared, his voice carrying across the stadium. "Stop punishing yourself. Stop fighting with one hand tied. Show me, show everyone, what you can really do when you're fighting for yourself instead of against your father." Todoroki faltered, his ice formation weakening. "I can't if I use his power." "It's not his power." Izuku appeared in front of Todoroki, electricity blazing. "It's yours, your quirk, your choice, your life. He doesn't control you unless you let him. So stop letting him." Something broke in Todoroki's expression. Years of resentment, of limitation, of self-imposed restriction. Fire erupted from his left side, melting his own ice, the two halves of his quirk finally working together. "That's it." Izuku grinned, genuinely happy to see Todoroki using his full power. "Now we can have a real fight." What followed was one of the most spectacular battles in sports festival history. Fire and ice versus lightning and speed. Todoroki created massive elemental attacks that Izuku dodged or disrupted with electrical discharges. Izuku's speed forced Todoroki to use both sides of his quirk simultaneously, creating combination attacks he'd never attempted before. The stadium shook. The barriers created to protect the audience were tested to their limits. Pro heroes watched in awe as two first-year students displayed power that rivaled some pros. But ultimately, Izuku's training and experience gave him the edge. When Todoroki launched his most powerful combination attack, fire and ice spiraling together in devastating fusion, Izuku met it with his own maximum output. Thunderbolt, maximum discharge. The electrical attack didn't just counter Todoroki's power. It overwhelmed it, breaking through the elemental assault and striking Todoroki directly. The non-lethal application Izuku had practiced for weeks worked perfectly. Todoroki collapsed, unconscious but unharmed, smoke rising from his uniform. Midnight, the referee announced Izuku's victory. The stadium erupted in cheers. As Metabots carried Todoroki away, the fallen student smiled. Actually smiled. For the first time since the sports festival began, he looked at peace. The final match between Izuku and Bakugo, who had defeated Inasa in an explosive semifinal, was anticlimactic only in comparison to the Todoroki battle. Bakugo fought with everything he had: explosions that shook the stadium, strategic positioning that showcased genuine tactical thinking, and absolute refusal to surrender, even when clearly outmatched. But Izuku was operating on another level entirely. Speed of lightning mode made him untouchable. Whirlwind mode gave him strength to match Bakugo's explosive power. Years of assassin training provided combat awareness that Bakugo, for all his talent, couldn't yet match. The match ended with Bakugo unconscious, his body pushed beyond its limits in pursuit of victory. Izuku stood over him, electricity fading, breathing heavily, but victorious. Izuku Midoriya wins. Present Meek's voice was hoarse but triumphant. The first-year champion of the UA Sports Festival. The crowd's roar was deafening. Izuku stood in the center of the arena, aware of millions of eyes on him, pro heroes evaluating, civilians cheering, villains taking note. This moment would define how the world saw him. He thought about All Might's words, about being a symbol, about showing there was a better way. And he thought about his own journey, from assassin to student to hero in training. About Inasa's friendship, Momo's acceptance, his classmates' support. About choosing his own path rather than following the one laid out for him. When All Might appeared to present the medals, the symbol of peace in all his glory, Izuku felt something shift inside himself. This wasn't just a victory in a school competition. It was validation that his choice to come to UA to try to become something more than an assassin had been right. Young Midoriya, All Might said as he placed the gold medal around Izuku's neck. You were magnificent today. You showed not just power, but growth. The way you helped young Todoroki break through his limitations, that was heroic in the truest sense. Well done. The silver medal went to Bakugo, who had regained consciousness and was scowling but not explosively angry for once. Bronze medals went to both Todoroki and Inasa, who had tied for third. As the ceremony concluded and students began dispersing, Izuku was mobbed by pro heroes offering internship opportunities. Dozens of agencies wanted him, attracted by his power and performance. But 3 offers stood out. Gran Torino, All Might's former teacher, offering intense training in speed and combat applications. Endeavor, the number 2 hero and Todoroki's father, offering brutal efficiency training that would push Izuku to his absolute limits. And an unsigned offer from someone who simply identified themselves as a specialist in transitioning between different worlds and finding one's true path. Izuku tucked all 3 offers away to consider later. Right now, he was more interested in finding his friends and classmates, in celebrating not just victory, but everyone's growth. He found Momo first. She'd been knocked out in the semifinals by Bakugo, a hard-fought match that had showcased her brilliance even in defeat. Congratulations, she said, genuine warmth in her voice. You were incredible today. So were you, Izuku replied honestly. Your match against Bakugo, those strategic adaptations were brilliant. Not brilliant enough to win, she pointed out with a slight smile. Winning isn't everything. Growth matters more. Izuku took her hand. They were past the point of awkwardness about such gestures. And you grew. We all did. Inasa appeared with his characteristic enthusiasm slightly dimmed by exhaustion, but still present. Izuku, you were amazing. That final attack against Bakugo, and the way you helped Todoroki. This was the best sports festival ever. You did great too, Izuku said. Your match against Bakugo was intense. He's so passionate about winning. Inasa laughed. I respect that. Even though he beat me, I learned so much. Next time, I'll be even stronger. Todoroki joined their group, his expression still showing traces of the emotional breakthrough he'd experienced. Midoriya. I need to thank you? For beating you? For freeing me. Todoroki's voice was quiet but sincere. I've been so focused on rejecting my father that I was rejecting part of myself. You made me realize that using my full power doesn't mean accepting his vision. It means transcending it. I'm going to train with both sides of my quirk now, and eventually, I'm going to surpass you. Looking forward to it, Izuku replied, meaning it. The class gathered for an informal celebration despite their exhaustion. Someone had smuggled in food, probably Sato, whose sugar rush quirk required constant caloric intake. Stories were shared, matches analyzed, and bonds strengthened. Izuku watched his classmates, his friends, and felt something he'd never experienced in his assassin life: belonging. These people knew parts of who he was and accepted him. They pushed him to be better, challenged him to think differently, supported him when he struggled. This was what he'd been seeking when he chose to attend UA. Not just a different path, but a different life. One where his worth wasn't measured in contracts completed or targets eliminated, but in friendships forged and people protected. His phone buzzed. A message from his father: watch the entire festival. Your mother and sister send their congratulations. I send my acknowledgement that you've found your path. The family will always be here if you need us, but you're becoming something more than just our successor. I'm proud of who you're choosing to be. Izuku read the message 3 times, throat tight with emotion. His father, the patriarch of an assassin dynasty, was giving him permission to be different. To be more. Another message arrived, this one from an unknown number. Congratulations on your victory. Your performance caught our attention. We'll be watching your development with interest. The Hero Public Safety Commission. A third message, this one making Izuku's blood run cold. You're strong. We'll meet again. Next time, you won't have All Might to save you. Shigaraki Tamura, the villain from USJ. He was still out there, still planning something. The threat wasn't over, but Izuku felt ready for it. He had allies now. Friends. A support system. He wasn't fighting alone anymore. You okay? Momo asked, noticing his expression. Yeah, Izuku said, putting away his phone, just thinking about the future. And I think it's going to be interesting. She laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine. That's one word for it. Knowing you, interesting probably means insane, dangerous, and completely unprecedented. Probably, Izuku agreed. But we'll face it together, right? Together, Momo confirmed. Inasa threw his arms around both of them, and nearly knocking them over with his enthusiasm. Together. That's the spirit. We're going to become the greatest heroes. Not just individually, as a class, as friends. This is just the beginning. And as Class 1A celebrated their first major milestone as the sun set over UA High School, as the world watched and evaluated and prepared, Izuku Midoriya, assassin, student, friend, hero in training, felt something he'd never felt before. Hope. Not the desperate hope of someone seeking escape, but the confident hope of someone who had chosen their path and found it good, who had faced their past and integrated it with their present to build a better future, who had discovered that being powerful didn't mean being alone, and that strength could be shared rather than hoarded. The sports festival was over, but Izuku's journey, the true journey of becoming a hero, was just beginning, and he couldn't wait to see where it led. The weeks following the sports festival brought unprecedented change to Izuku's life at UA. His display of overwhelming power had attracted attention from across hero society. Some positive, much cautious, and a concerning amount hostile. Pro-heroes who'd watched the tournament fell into 3 categories. Those who saw potential and wanted to mentor him. Those who feared what an assassin-trained student represented for hero society's future. And those who recognized the Midoriya name and understood exactly what kind of family had infiltrated Japan's premier hero school. Izuku stood in Principal Nezu's office 3 days after the festival, facing not just the mammalian principal, but also several Hero Public Safety Commission representatives. Their expressions ranged from calculating to openly suspicious. Midoriya, the lead commissioner, a sharp-eyed woman named Tanaka, began without preamble. Your performance at the sports festival was remarkable. It was also concerning. The level of lethality you displayed during the USJ incident, combined with combat techniques that clearly don't originate from standard hero training, has raised questions. I eliminated threats attacking students, Izuku replied calmly, his tone carrying the same matter-of-fact quality Killua used when discussing violence. Would you have preferred I let villains murder my classmates while I waited for adult heroes to handle everything? Nezu sipped his tea, whiskers twitching with amusement at Izuku's directness. The principal knew more than he let on. His intelligence network had undoubtedly identified the Midoriya family's true nature. We're not questioning your results, another commissioner interjected. We're questioning your methods. Heroes capture villains. You executed them with surgical precision. That's not hero work, that's assassination. Is there a functional difference when the end result is protected civilians? Izuku asked. Because from where I stood, those villains came to murder children. I made sure they couldn't succeed. If hero society has a problem with effective threat elimination, maybe the problem isn't with my methods. The temperature in the room dropped. Commissioners exchanged glances, clearly unused to a 15-year-old student challenging their authority so directly. Tanaka leaned forward. We know who your family is, Midoriya. The Midoriya clan, elite assassins who've operated in the shadows for generations. Your father, Hisashi Midoriya, is known in certain circles as one of the most dangerous men alive. We've allowed your enrollment at UA because, frankly, having you where we can monitor you is preferable to having you operating independently. How pragmatic, Izuku said, electricity crackling faintly across his fingertips, a subtle reminder that monitoring him and controlling him were very different things. Is there a point to this meeting, or did you just want to establish that you know my family background? Nezu intervened smoothly. I believe what the Commission is attempting to communicate, young Midoriya, is that they're offering you an opportunity. Your unique skill set makes you valuable for situations that require discretion. You want to use me as a sanctioned assassin, Izuku translated bluntly. Hero Commission sends me after targets they can't publicly address, and in exchange, I get legitimacy and protection from legal consequences. Tanaka didn't deny it. You're going to kill people anyway. Your training makes that inevitable. We're simply suggesting you channel that tendency toward targets that benefit society. Criminals too dangerous for standard hero intervention, villains with quirks that make capture impossibly risky, threats to national security that need to disappear quietly. Izuku considered the offer. It was logical from their perspective. They got a precision weapon they could deploy without public accountability. From his perspective, it was a leash disguised as opportunity. I'll think about it, he said finally, but understand something clearly. I came to UA to become a hero, not to be your off-books enforcer. If I take contracts, it'll be because I choose to, not because you have leverage over me. Confident, a third commissioner observed coldly. Perhaps overconfident for a student who could be expelled and investigated. Izuku's expression didn't change, but his eyes, those green eyes that could shift from warm to lethal in an instant, locked onto the commissioner with predatory focus. You could try, but my family has eliminated people far more powerful and better protected than any of you. Threatening me is a strategic error you won't get to make twice. The threat hung in the air, delivered with Killua's characteristic matter-of-fact tone that made it somehow more disturbing than rage would have been. He wasn't posturing or blustering, he was stating a simple fact about consequence. Nezu's paw came down on his desk with surprising force. Gentlemen, lady, I believe this meeting has run its course. Young Midoriya has made his position clear. He will consider your offer on his own terms. Attempting to coerce or threaten him is both ineffective and, frankly, inadvisable. The commissioners stood, clearly unhappy, but recognizing they'd get nothing more from this encounter. As they filed out, Tanaka paused at the door. The offer stands, Midoriya. When you decide you want to make a real difference, the kind hero society won't acknowledge publicly but desperately needs, contact us. When they'd gone, Nezu gestured for Izuku to sit. The principal's expression had shifted from professional to genuinely curious. You handled that well, Nezu said. Most students would have been intimidated. You treated them as peers attempting negotiation. Because that's what it was, Izuku replied, accepting the tea Nezu offered. They want something from me. I might want something from them. The power dynamic isn't as one-sided as they'd like to believe. Indeed. Nezu studied him over the rim of his cup. I must confess, when I approved your enrollment, I wondered how an assassin's son would adapt to hero education. You've exceeded my expectations, not by abandoning your background, but by integrating it with hero principles in fascinating ways. Is that your way of saying you're monitoring me too? I monitor all my students, Nezu said cheerfully. But yes, you receive special attention. Your family's reputation is significant. The Midoriya clan has been eliminating problems for governments and organizations for over a century. You represent a unique intersection of that legacy with Hero Society's future. Izuku sipped his tea, excellent quality as expected from Nezu, and considered his response. I'm not trying to hide what I am. My family trained me to be an elite assassin. I've killed people. I'll probably kill again, but I'm also trying to become something more than just a weapon. UA represents that opportunity. And the commission's offer puts me right back in the role I'm trying to expand beyond, Izuku said. I'm not opposed to using my skills when necessary, but I won't become their personal executioner. If I take targets, it'll be based on my assessment of threat and necessity, not their political convenience. Nezu nodded approvingly. A wise position. For what it's worth, I support your growth here at UA. You're demonstrating that power and lethality can coexist with heroic intent. That's a valuable lesson for your classmates and perhaps for Hero Society as a whole. The conversation shifted to lighter topics: upcoming training exercises, internship selections, and Izuku's academic performance, flawless across all subjects. When Izuku finally left the office, he felt the weight of scrutiny that would now follow him everywhere. Hero Society knew what he was. The question was what he would become. Internships began the following week. Most students selected agencies based on their sports festival performances. Offers had flooded in for top performers, with Izuku receiving over 4,000 requests. He'd narrowed his choices to 3: Gran Torino, whose speed-focused training could refine his Godspeed modes; Endeavor, whose brutal efficiency matched his own; and the mysterious unsigned offer that had intrigued him. After considerable thought, Izuku chose the unsigned offer. Something about it resonated. The promise of transitioning between different worlds and finding one's true path suggested understanding of his unique situation. The address led to a small, unassuming dojo in a quiet Tokyo neighborhood. No hero agency signage, no public presence, just a traditional building that could have been there for centuries. Izuku's instincts, honed through years of assassination training, immediately recognized this place as dangerous. The kind of dangerous that didn't advertise itself. An elderly man answered his knock, short, weathered, with eyes that had seen too much combat to ever fully relax. His presence reminded Izuku of his grandfather, understated power wrapped in casual appearance. "Midoriya Izuku," the old man said, not a question. "I'm Netero. Come in." The name meant nothing to Izuku, but the man's aura, subtle, controlled, but unmistakably lethal, demanded respect. This was someone who could kill without quirk enhancement, whose body was a weapon refined over decades. The dojo's interior was sparse. Wooden floors, weapons mounted on walls, training equipment that emphasized fundamentals over flashy technology. It felt more like an assassin's training ground than a hero agency. Tea, Netero offered, already preparing it with practiced efficiency. They sat across from each other, and Izuku recognized the ritual for what it was: assessment. Netero was evaluating him the way his father evaluated potential contractors. Threat level, capability, potential. "Your sports festival performance was impressive," Netero began. "But what interested me most wasn't your power or technique. It was your conflict. You fight like an assassin but want to be perceived as a hero. That internal tension is fascinating." "You know what I am," Izuku stated. "I know what you were trained to be. The Midoriya clan's reputation extends beyond Japan. Elite assassins who've eliminated targets across the globe. Your family has ended more lives than most villain organizations." Netero sipped his tea calmly. "But you're trying to become something different. That's why you're here." "And what are you?" "A teacher," Netero said simply. "I've trained heroes, assassins, warriors of various types. I've learned that the labels matter less than the individual's choices. You want to integrate your background with hero principles? I can help with that." How? Netero set down his cup and stood. By teaching you what your family couldn't. They taught you to kill efficiently. I'll teach you to transcend efficiency entirely, to reach a level where the distinction between hero and assassin becomes irrelevant because you operate on a plane beyond such limitations. Izuku's interest sharpened. This was different from standard hero training or even his family's assassination techniques. What kind of training? The kind that will hurt, Netero said with a slight smile. The kind that will push you past every limit you thought you had. The kind that will either break you or forge you into something unprecedented in hero society. When do we start? Now. The training began immediately and was unlike anything Izuku had experienced. Netero didn't focus on quirk development or combat techniques initially. Instead, he emphasized something more fundamental: life energy. Your quirk, this Godspeed ability, is powerful, Netero explained as they sat in meditation. But it's external enhancement. What I'm teaching you is internal, the ability to manipulate your own life force, your aura, your very essence. Sounds mystical, Izuku observed skeptically. It's practical, Netero corrected. Every living thing produces energy. Most people waste it, let it dissipate naturally. Fighters learn to channel it unconsciously through quirk usage. What I'm teaching you is conscious control, to contain your energy, shape-act it, weaponize it beyond what quirks allow. Over the following days, Netero introduced concepts that seemed absurd until Izuku experienced them directly. Containing his aura to prevent leakage, sensing others' life energy, projecting his presence or concealing it entirely. The old master called it Nen, a word that meant nothing to Izuku initially, but would soon become central to his evolution. Nen has principles, Netero explained during a particularly brutal training session where Izuku was meditating under a waterfall. A cliché, but effective for forcing focus through discomfort. 10. Contain your aura. Zetsu, suppress it completely. Ren, expand and strengthen it. These are foundations. Master them, and you unlock capabilities beyond standard quirk usage. Izuku threw himself into the training with the same intensity he'd brought to everything. His assassin discipline made him an ideal student. He could endure discomfort, maintain focus for hours, and execute instructions precisely. But Netero's methods were punishing. He didn't explain through lecture alone, but through experience. Having Izuku maintain 10 while being struck repeatedly, forcing Zetsu while being hunted through the dojo, pushing Ren until his aura felt like it would tear him apart from the inside. Your body is conditioned from assassin training, Netero observed, after one particularly brutal session left Izuku gasping. But your energy control is undeveloped. You've relied on natural talent and quirk power. Now you're learning to be deliberate with every aspect of your being. The breakthrough came during the second week. Izuku was attempting to maintain Ren, the expansion of his aura, while Netero struck him with wooden training swords. The old master moved with impossible speed and precision, each strike designed to disrupt concentration. Then something clicked. Izuku felt his aura, that life energy Netero kept talking about, as a tangible thing. Not the electrical energy of his quirk, but something deeper. Something that existed independent of genetic enhancement. He could shape it. The wooden sword struck his aura before touching his skin. The impact dispersed across his entire energy field rather than concentrating on a single point. Netero smiled, the first genuine expression of approval Izuku had seen from him. Good, you're beginning to understand. Nen isn't separate from your quirk. It enhances it, multiplies it, allows applications you couldn't achieve through electrical manipulation alone. As the internship progressed, Netero revealed more advanced concepts. Gyo, concentrating aura in specific body parts. In, concealing one's aura. En, extending aura to create a sensory field. And the more complex techniques that required mastery of fundamentals. But he also taught philosophy. An assassin kills to complete contracts, Netero said during one evening's discussion. A hero saves to protect society. You're trying to do both. The cognitive dissonance is what I saw in your sports festival matches, moments where you defaulted to lethal efficiency, then caught yourself and adjusted. Is there a way to reconcile them? Izuku asked. Not reconcile. Transcend. Stop thinking in binary terms of assassin versus hero. You're a warrior who can kill or save as the situation demands. The choice isn't about identity, it's about assessment. Some threats require elimination, others require redemption. Master both responses and deploy each appropriately. The wisdom resonated with Izuku in ways All Might's idealism hadn't. Netero wasn't asking him to abandon his assassin training or pretend he wasn't lethal. He was teaching integration, being fully capable of both killing and saving, then choosing wisely between them. Your girlfriend, the Yaoyorozu girl, Netero said unexpectedly one afternoon. She knows what you are? Momo? Yes, she figured it out after USJ. And accepted it? She says she likes the whole me, assassin and student both. Netero nodded approvingly. Wise girl. People who can see your contradictions and embrace them are rare. Treasure that. The internship culminated in a test. Netero would attack with intent to seriously injure, and Izuku had to defend using everything he'd learned. No quirk usage allowed, only nen techniques and physical capability. The old master moved like water, his strikes precise and devastating. Izuku used Ten to absorb impacts, Zetsu to create false openings, Ren to overpower through sheer aura pressure when Netero committed to an attack. The fight lasted 3 minutes, an eternity in combat terms, before Netero called a halt. Acceptable, he said, which from him was high praise. You've grasped the fundamentals. Continuing your development will require practice and application. Use these techniques in conjunction with your quirk. You'll discover combinations that make you truly formidable. As the internship ended, Netero provided one final piece of guidance. Your family will have more to teach you. When you're ready, seek them out. They possess knowledge I don't, specific to your bloodline, but approach that training with what you've learned here. Niskat, you're not just your family's weapon anymore. You're your own warrior. Izuku returned to UA fundamentally changed. The Nen training had given him tools beyond electrical enhancement, ways to manipulate combat that didn't rely on quirk usage at all. Combined with his Godspeed modes and assassin techniques, he'd become something unprecedented. But more importantly, Netero had given him permission to stop wrestling with his dual nature. He was an assassin and a hero in training, both, simultaneously. That wasn't contradiction, it was evolution. The return to UA brought immediate complications. While Izuku had been training with Netero, the League of Villains had been active. Incidents across Japan suggested coordinated villain activity. Targeted attacks on hero agencies, strategic disruption of law enforcement, and ominous recruitment efforts. Aizawa called an emergency class meeting the day after internships ended. His expression was grimmer than usual, which was saying something. The League of Villains is escalating, he announced without preamble. Intelligence suggests they're planning something significant. All hero agencies are on high alert. UA security has been doubled. Until further notice, students should not travel alone off campus. Murmurs of concern rippled through Class 1A. The USJ attack had proven villains would target students directly. Now organized villain activity suggested something worse coming. Izuku's assassin instinct screamed that this was orchestrated. Not random escalation, strategic preparation. The League was building towards something, accumulating power and resources for a specific purpose. After class, Momo found him on the roof, their usual spot for private conversations. You look different, she observed, studying him with analytical eyes. The internship changed something. I learned new techniques, Izuku said. Ways to fight that don't rely on my quirk. My mentor taught me to manipulate life energy directly. He demonstrated by activating Ten, his aura becoming visible as a faint shimmer around his body. Momo's eyes widened with fascination. That's not your quirk? No, it's something more fundamental. Everyone has this energy. Most just never learn to control it. Combined with my Godspeed modes... He let the implication hang. You've become even more dangerous, Momo concluded. The Commission must be thrilled. Izuku snorted. The Commission can stay thrilled from a distance. They approached me about sanctioned assassination work. I declined. Did you? Momo moved closer, her hand finding his. Or did you postpone? Am I that transparent? To me? Yes. She smiled slightly. I know you, Izuku. You're trying to be a hero, but you're also pragmatic. If they put a genuinely dangerous target in front of you, someone who's murdered innocents and will continue killing, you'll take the contract. Would that bother you? Momo considered carefully. No, because I trust your judgment. You won't kill indiscriminately or based on someone else's political convenience. But if you assess a threat as requiring elimination, I understand that's who you are. The acceptance meant everything. Momo saw his capacity for violence and didn't flinch. She understood that his assassin training wasn't something to overcome. It was part of his complete self. Their moment was interrupted by Inasa's characteristic enthusiastic arrival. The wind user landed on the roof with a cyclone of air, grinning widely. There you are, I've been looking everywhere. Guess what? I learned this amazing new technique during my internship. Watch this. He demonstrated a focused wind attack that could cut through steel. Izuku noted the increased precision. Inasa had refined his raw power into something more controlled. That's impressive, Izuku said genuinely. Your control has improved significantly. Right? Inasa's enthusiasm was infectious. My mentor said I was too reliant on overwhelming force, so we worked on precision. Now I can do both, just like you're doing with all your different techniques. The three of them talked for over an hour, sharing internship experiences. Momo had worked with Uwabami, learning public relations and media management, skills that would serve her well as a hero. Inasa had trained under Gang Orca, focusing on control and rescue operations. Their conversation was comfortable, the easy interaction of people who'd moved past superficial friendship into genuine trust. Izuku felt grateful for both of them, Inasa's unwavering loyalty and Momo's perceptive acceptance. As evening approached and they prepared to head back to the dorms, Momo lingered behind. There's something else, she said quietly. My family wants to meet you, formally. Izuku's assassin training immediately recognized the significance. Meeting her family meant their relationship was serious enough to involve parents, particularly parents as prominent as the Yaoyorozu family. When? This weekend, if you're available. It'll be formal. My parents are traditional about these things. Nervous? A bit, Momo admitted. They'll ask questions, they're very protective, and they'll want to understand who I'm involved with. Your family's reputation might complicate things. Want me to hide what I am? No, she said firmly. I want you to be honest. My parents value integrity more than conventional heroism. Just be yourself. The you I know. The Yaoyorozu estate was exactly what Izuku expected. Vast, traditional, and radiating old money. The guards at the gate recognized his name, they'd been briefed, and admitted him with professional courtesy that couldn't quite hide their wariness. Momo met him at the entrance, dressed in a formal kimono that suited her elegance. She looked nervous but determined. Ready? She asked, as I'll ever be. Her parents received them in a traditional tea room. Yaoyorozu Kenji and Yaoyorozu Yui were imposing in that understated way wealthy people managed. They assessed Izuku with the same analytical precision Momo had inherited. Midoriya Izuku, Kenji said, his tone neutral. We've heard much about you. From our daughter, from media coverage of the sports festival, and from other sources. Other sources clearly meant intelligence about his family. The Yaoyorozu family's connections would have revealed the Midoriya clan's true nature quickly. I appreciate you agreeing to meet with me, Izuku replied with formal politeness. Momo means a great deal to me. And you to her, apparently, Yui observed. She's been quite vocal about her admiration for your capabilities, both in combat and character. They proceeded through traditional formalities, tea service, polite inquiries about his studies, discussion of the sports festival. Izuku recognized the ritual, establishing baseline, looking for inconsistencies, evaluating his social competence. Kenji shifted to more direct questioning. Your family is renowned in certain circles, he said. The Midoriya clan has eliminated targets across the globe for various organizations. You've been trained since childhood in assassination techniques. This is accurate, yes? Yes. Izuku confirmed. No point in evasion, they already knew. And yet you're attending UA to become a hero. An interesting career transition. I'm trying to become more than what I was raised to be, Izuku said honestly. My family trained me excellently for assassination, but I want to prove I can protect people as effectively as I can eliminate threats. UA provides that opportunity. Yui leaned forward slightly. You killed several villains during the USJ attack. Killed, not captured. That's not typical hero behavior. No, it's not. But those villains came to murder students. I made sure they couldn't succeed. I won't apologize for keeping your daughter and her classmates alive. We're not asking you to apologize, Kenji interjected. We're trying to understand your mindset. Heroes typically prioritize capture and reformation. You prioritize elimination. That's an assassin's methodology. I prioritize protecting people, Izuku corrected. If I can capture a threat safely, I will. If capture puts innocents at risk, I eliminate the threat. The goal is protecting lives, not adhering to methodology for its own sake. The parents exchanged glances, some silent communication that Izuku couldn't fully interpret. Momo looked tense, clearly worried about how this was proceeding. You're 15 years old, Yui said. You've killed people, multiple people. Does that not affect you? It does, Izuku admitted. I think about every target my family has eliminated. I evaluate whether there was another way. Sometimes I conclude there was. Sometimes I'm certain elimination was necessary, but I don't kill casually or without thought. Each death is a decision I make deliberately. That's... Kenji paused, seeming to search for words. Remarkably mature for someone your age, disturbingly so. My childhood wasn't typical, Izuku said simply. By the time most kids were learning multiplication, I was learning how to stop a human heart with precise strikes. That shapes perspective. Silence filled the tea room. Izuku had laid out his background with unflinching honesty. No attempts to soften or justify, just raw truth. Finally, Yui spoke. You care about our daughter. Very much. And she cares about you, clearly. She's defended you quite passionately when we've expressed concerns. Yui's expression softened slightly. Momo is brilliant, capable, and stubborn. If she's chosen you, it's because she sees something worth her regard. We trust her judgment. However, Kenji added, his tone firm, understand that our daughter is precious to us. If you hurt her, emotionally or otherwise, your family's reputation won't protect you from consequences. Izuku met his gaze directly. I would never hurt Momo deliberately, and if I ever did hurt her unintentionally, your consequences would be redundant. I'd already hate myself more than you could. The honesty seemed to satisfy them. The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Izuku's academic performance, his friendship with Inasa, his plans for hero work after graduation. By the time he left several hours later, Momo walked him to the gate with visible relief. That went better than I expected, she admitted. My father actually smiled at one point. That's rare. Your parents are protective but reasonable, Izuku observed. They just wanted to ensure I'm not a danger to you. Are you? Momo asked with slight amusement. Depends on your definition. I'm definitely dangerous, but not to you. Never to you. She kissed him then, quick and sweet, a promise and affirmation. Good answer. Training intensified as the semester progressed. Aizawa pushed Class 1A harder than ever, clearly preparing them for escalating villain threats. Combat exercises became more complex, rescue scenarios more realistic, academic requirements more demanding. Izuku integrated his Nen training with his quirk abilities, discovering combinations that made him exponentially more formidable. Using Ten while in Godspeed mode distributed electrical stress across his entire aura, extending the duration he could maintain enhancement. Ren amplified his lightning attacks beyond what quirk usage alone allowed. Zetsu made him completely undetectable, his aura suppressed so thoroughly that even sensory-type quirks couldn't perceive him. During a training exercise against Todoroki, Izuku demonstrated the new capabilities. He used In to conceal his aura while activating Godspeed, creating an attack Todoroki couldn't sense until electrical discharge was already striking. The combination of Nen concealment and quirk speed was nearly impossible to counter. That's not fair, Todoroki said after being defeated in seconds. But he was smiling, actual genuine emotion. Their sports festival match had unlocked something in him, and he was using his fireside regularly now. Combat isn't fair, Izuku replied, helping him up. It's about exploiting every advantage. You've got overwhelming elemental power. I've got speed and now energy manipulation. We both use what we have. Their friendship had deepened since the festival. Todoroki sought out Izuku for strategic advice, and they trained together regularly. The Ice and Fire user was working to integrate his dual quirk more effectively, creating combination attacks that demonstrated remarkable creativity. Bakugo, surprisingly, also began training alongside them. The explosive student had been quieter since the festival, less outwardly aggressive, more focused on improvement. He'd recognized that raw power wasn't enough to overcome Izuku's technical superiority and was working to close that gap. Don't think I've accepted second place, Bakugo growled during one brutal training session. I'm getting stronger. Next time we fight, I'll beat you. Looking forward to it, Izuku said, meaning it. Competition drove growth. Bakugo's relentless pursuit of strength pushed Izuku to improve as well. The dynamic between Class 1A's top students was competitive but no longer hostile. They challenged each other, learned from each other, and collectively raised the class's overall capability. But beneath the training and academic progress, tension built. League of Villains activity increased. More attacks, more coordinated operations, more recruitment of powerful villains. Hero Society was stretched thin, responding to incidents across Japan. Then came the night that changed everything. Izuku was in his dorm room reviewing combat techniques when his phone rang. His father's contact information. Dad? Son. Hisashi's voice was serious, the tone he used for family business, not casual conversation. We need to talk. In person. Can you come home this weekend? Is something wrong? Not wrong, but important. There are things about your training, about our family, that I haven't taught you yet. Things you're ready for now. Izuku's instincts sharpened. His father wouldn't call him home for trivial matters. I'll be there Saturday morning. Good. Your mother and sister want to see you anyway. And Izuku, what I'm going to teach you, it goes beyond assassination techniques. It's our family's deepest legacy, the power that makes the Midoriya clan truly elite. The call ended, leaving Izuku with more questions than answers. His family had already taught him lethal efficiency, combat mastery, and strategic thinking. What more could there be? Saturday arrived, and Izuku made the trip to the Midoriya estate, a compound hidden in the mountains outside Tokyo, protected by security that would challenge most pro-heroes. His family didn't advertise their location, and those who discovered it uninvited tended to disappear. His mother greeted him warmly, and his younger sister Eri practically tackled him with enthusiasm. The contrast between his family's domestic warmth and their professional lethality always struck Izuku as surreal. After dinner, his father led him to the family's private training hall, a massive underground facility where generations of Midoriyas had honed their skills. You've grown, Hisashi observed, studying his son with assassin's precision. The sports festival demonstrated your power publicly, but more importantly, I can see you've learned something new. Your aura control is different, more refined. My internship mentor taught me Nen principles, Izuku confirmed. Energy manipulation independent of quirk usage. Hisashi smiled, a genuine expression of pride. Netero, I suspected he might be the one who sent that unsigned offer. The old master has a talent for finding students with potential for his techniques. He gestured for Izuku to sit. What I'm about to teach you builds on that foundation. Because, son, Nen isn't new to our family. We've been masters of it for generations. Izuku's eyes widened. What? The Midoriya clan's assassination techniques, the ones that make us elite, aren't just martial skill and quirk application. They're Nen-enhanced methods that previous generations developed. Every family heir learns these techniques when they're ready. You're ready now. Over the next several hours, Hisashi revealed the Midoriya family's deepest secrets. Their assassination techniques incorporated advanced Nen principles, enhancement to increase physical capability beyond quirk limits, a mission to project attacks at range, transmutation to alter their aura's properties, and manipulation to influence targets directly. Your quirk, Godspeed, is powerful, Hisashi explained, but combined with our family's Nen techniques, it becomes devastating. Let me show you. He activated what appeared to be a quirk enhancement, but Izuku's newly trained perception recognized it as Nen. His father's aura expanded and concentrated simultaneously, creating localized enhancement that multiplied his natural capabilities. Ken, Hisashi said, maintaining Ren across your entire body constantly. It's exhausting, but it makes you nearly invincible to conventional attacks. Combined with your Godspeed, you become untouchable. He demonstrated Ryu flowing aura between body parts dynamically, concentrating defense where attacks landed and offense where strikes originated. Then Ko, focusing all aura into a single point for devastating attacks or impenetrable defense. These are the principles, Hisashi continued. Now for the applications specific to our family. The training that followed was more intense than anything Izuku had experienced. His father taught him assassination techniques that incorporated nen, strikes that disrupted a target's aura along with their physical body, allowing him to kill opponents who could defend against conventional attacks. Emission techniques that let him project electrical attacks beyond his body's direct contact. Transmutation that shaped his electrical aura into cutting edges or penetrating spikes. Your Godspeed has 2 modes, Hisashi said during a break. Speed of lightning for overwhelming velocity and whirlwind for enhanced strength. Now add nen principles. Use Ken with speed of lightning. You become so fast and protected that enemies can't track or touch you. Use Ko with whirlwind. Concentrate all your aura into a single strike with all your strength behind it. The result is attacks that can shatter buildings. Izuku practiced the combinations obsessively. Ken-enhanced Godspeed made him a blur even to his father's experienced eyes. The Ko-enhanced strikes created craters in the reinforced training hall floor. When he combined Rhythm Echo with Nen Concealment, his afterimages became completely convincing. Enemies couldn't determine which was real even with sensory quirks. You're learning faster than I did at your age, Hisashi observed with evident satisfaction. The UA training is developing your combat instincts beyond pure assassination. You're thinking strategically about combining techniques rather than just executing them. They trained for hours each day that weekend. Izuku absorbed everything his father taught: advanced nen applications, family assassination techniques, strategic principles for using his complete arsenal. By the time he returned to UA, he'd evolved from formidable to genuinely terrifying. But with the new power came responsibility. His father's final words stayed with him. These techniques make you capable of eliminating almost anyone, Hisashi said seriously. Pro-heroes, villains with powerful quirks, even enhanced humans like that Nomu creature from USJ. You now have the capability to be the Midoriya family's greatest assassin. Use that capability wisely, because once you cross certain lines, there's no going back. Izuku understood. He'd been lethal before. Now he was a weapon of mass destruction disguised as a teenager. How he used that power would define whether he became a hero or remained an assassin. The League of Villains' major operation came during the summer training camp, or what should have been a training camp. Class 1A and 1B had been sent to a remote mountain facility for intensive quirk development, away from civilian populations where their enhanced training wouldn't risk collateral damage. Izuku's instincts screamed danger the moment they arrived. The facility was too isolated, too perfect a target. When he mentioned his concerns to Aizawa, the teacher nodded grimly. "We're aware. That's why we brought extra security. Stay alert." The first 2 days passed without incident. Students trained under the Wild Pussycats, a hero team specializing in quirk development, pushing their abilities in ways that normal urban training couldn't accommodate. Izuku worked on sustaining his Nen-enhanced Godspeed modes for extended periods. The combination of Ken and Speed of Lightning drained his stamina rapidly, but with practice, he was extending the duration. His goal was maintaining it for at least 10 minutes in combat situations, enough time to eliminate any conventional threat. Then, on the 3rd night, everything went to hell. The attack came during dinner. Reality seemed to tear open, multiple portals created by Kokuri's quirk, and villains poured through. Dozens of them, each with dangerous quirks and clear intent to kill or capture students. But this time, Izuku was ready. "Everyone get behind me," he said, his voice cutting through the rising panic. Electricity began crackling across his skin, white and blue arcs dancing between his fingers. His aura flared, visible to anyone with enhanced perception. "And whatever happens," he continued, his eyes shifting to that cold focus that marked the assassin emerging, "stay back. These aren't training exercises." The villains charged. Izuku activated Ken-enhanced Speed of Lightning mode and became Death Incarnate. Again. His combat style had evolved since USJ. Where before he'd been efficient and lethal, now he was artistic in his brutality. His Nen-enhanced speed made him literally untraceable. He appeared behind groups of villains, his hands moving in precise strikes that disrupted both their physical bodies and their aura, leaving them incapacitated or dead before they registered his presence. A villain with a blade quirk tried to attack Momo. Izuku appeared between them, caught the blade with Ken-protected hand, and drove his other hand through the villain's chest with Ko-enhanced force. Heart extracted, villain dead, threat eliminated. Total time, less than a second. 3 villains attempted to flank using mobility quirks. Izuku's rhythm echo created afterimages enhanced with it in concealment, making every image seem equally real. When the villains committed to attacking what they thought was his true position, he struck from an unexpected angle, electrical discharge overloading their nervous system simultaneously. "He's a monster," one villain screamed before Inasa's wind attack sent him crashing into a tree with bone-breaking force. "He's our classmate," Inasa corrected, his own aura flaring as he defended other students. "And you made a mistake attacking us." The Pussycats were engaged with their own opponents, but they kept glancing toward Izuku with expressions mixing awe and concern. He wasn't fighting like a student, he was fighting like a one-man army, systematically dismantling the villain force with methodical efficiency. A massive villain, clearly enhanced with some kind of strength quirk, charged at Izuku, confident his size and power would overwhelm. Izuku didn't dodge. He activated Ko, concentrating his entire aura into his fist, and met the charge head-on. The impact created a shockwave that flattened trees in a 10-meter radius. The villain flew backward, his enhanced body broken by the concentrated Nen-enhanced strike. "Midoriya!" Momo's voice carried warning. Izuku spun to see a new threat. A villain covered in disembodied hands, Shigaraki from the USJ attack, emerging from a portal with that Nomu creature beside him. "Found you," Shigaraki said, his voice manic with excitement. "The assassin prodigy. Sensei wants to meet you, so we're taking you. Nomu, grab him!" The bioengineered creature moved with that impossible speed Izuku remembered from USJ, but this time he was ready with Nen-enhanced perception. He could see Nomu's movements, track its attacks, analyze its patterns. "You brought the same weapon twice," Izuku observed, electricity blazing brighter. "That's a strategic error." He activated Ken-enhanced whirlwind mode, maximum strength and durability. When Nomu's fist connected with his guard, Izuku didn't fly backward. He held his ground, aura absorbing and distributing the impact. Then he counterattacked. Ko-enhanced lightning palm struck Nomu's exposed brain with maximum electrical output. The creature seized, its regeneration struggling to repair the electrical damage. Izuku didn't give it time to recover. His hands became blurs, precise strikes targeting the creature's vital points, each enhanced with Nen to bypass its shock absorption. "Impossible!" Shigaraki scratched his neck, frantically. "Nomu was designed to counter all might. How is a student?" "You designed it to counter physical attacks," Izuku interrupted, appearing beside Shigaraki with speed the villain couldn't track. His hand caught Shigaraki's wrist before the decay quirk could touch him. "You didn't account for someone who could kill in other ways." Electrical current flooded through Shigaraki's body, not enough to kill, but enough to incapacitate. The villain screamed and collapsed, his body convulsing from the shock. Kurogiri attempted to rescue his leader, portals opening around Izuku, but in concealment made Izuku's aura undetectable. He moved through the portal's positions before they fully formed, his combat awareness enhanced by Nen, allowing him to predict Kurogiri's targeting. A lightning-fast strike later, and Kurogiri joined Shigaraki on the ground, unconscious. The entire sequence, defeating Nomu, incapacitating Shigaraki, neutralizing Kurogiri, had taken less than 30 seconds. The remaining villains, seeing their leaders defeated, attempted to flee. Izuku let them go. They weren't significant threats, and pursuing would leave his classmates unprotected. Silence fell across the training camp as students and teachers processed what they'd just witnessed. Izuku stood among the fallen villains, electricity fading from his skin, breathing heavily but victorious. Then Aizawa was there, checking on students, securing the unconscious villains. "Midoriya, status report. 23 villains neutralized," Izuku replied, his voice returning to its normal calm tone as the combat mode faded. 11 dead, 12 incapacitated. Primary targets secured. No student casualties. "You killed 11 people," Aizawa stated flatly. "I eliminated 11 threats who were attempting to murder or capture students," Izuku corrected. "Some I could incapacitate safely, others required permanent solutions." The teacher studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "We'll discuss this later. Right now, I need you to help secure the perimeter. More villains might be coming." But no more came. The attack had been decisively crushed, the League's assault broken by a single student's overwhelming response. As pro-heroes arrived to transport the captured villains and investigate the incident, Izuku found himself surrounded by his classmates. Their expressions ranged from awe to fear to determination. "That was incredible," Kirishima said, his voice mixing admiration with uncertainty. "I've never seen anyone fight like that. You were like a force of nature." "Forces of nature don't make choices," Momo interjected, moving to Izuku's side. "Izuku does. Every decision he made protected us. That's what matters." "He killed people, though," Mineta said quietly, apparently having learned some courage. "Like, actually killed them. That's not what heroes do. Heroes protect people," Todoroki stated firmly. "Midoriya protected all of us. The method is secondary to the result." "Is it, though?" This from Ida, his expression troubled. "If we normalize killing as a hero response..." "We're not normalizing anything," Izuku interrupted, his tone gentle but firm. "I made choices based on threat assessment and capabilities. Some villains I could safely incapacitate. I did. Others presented too great a risk to my classmates. I eliminated them. Each decision was deliberate. This isn't about establishing precedent for you. This is about me using my training to keep you alive." The discussion continued into the evening, students wrestling with the same moral complexities they'd faced after USJ. But this time the conversation was different. Izuku hadn't just reacted to an attack. He dominated it so thoroughly that the villain force had been neutralized before pro-heroes even arrived. Later, Inasa found Izuku alone, looking out at the mountain landscape. "You okay?" Inasa asked, his enthusiasm dimmed by concern. "Yeah. Just thinking." "About the villains you killed?" "About the ones I didn't," Izuku admitted. "Every person I let live is a choice. A gamble that they won't come back stronger, better prepared, more dangerous. Assassin training says eliminate all threats completely. Hero training says give people chances to change. I'm still figuring out which approach is right." "Maybe both are," Inasa suggested. "Maybe the right approach changes based on the situation. You're smart enough to know the difference." "You have a lot of faith in me." "You're my best friend," Inasa said simply. "Of course I do. And Izuku, whatever choices you make, I'm with you. Always." The brotherhood between them was solid, unshakable. Izuku valued it more than he could express. When the class finally returned to UA 3 days later, the training camp cut short by the attack, they found the school in crisis mode. The League of Villains' assault on students had sparked public outcry. Hero Society's critics questioned whether UA could protect its students. Media swarmed the campus. And in Principal Nezu's office, Izuku faced consequences. 2 major villain attacks, Nezu said, his characteristic cheer replaced by serious concern. Both resulted in you killing multiple opponents. The Hero Commission is pleased with your effectiveness, but concerned about the optics. Dead villains can't be interrogated, can't provide intelligence, can't be reformed. "Dead villains also can't kill students," Izuku replied. "Should I have risked my classmates' lives for better optics?" "No," Nezu said firmly, "you shouldn't have. And I'm not criticizing your choices. I'm explaining the political reality. Hero Society operates on principles of redemption and reform. What you do, efficient threat elimination, challenges those principles. Some see you as Hero Society's future. Others see you as a dangerous precedent." "What do you see?" Nezu's expression softened slightly. "I see a young man trying to integrate conflicting worldviews into something functional. You're succeeding better than anyone expected. But you're also walking a very narrow path between hero and vigilante. Don't let the path collapse beneath you." The summer ended with tension hanging over UA and Hero Society more broadly. The League of Villains was regrouping. Shigaraki had been rescued from custody during transport, and Kurogiri had escaped through a portal activated remotely. Nomu had been secured, but without its creators, understanding the creature was difficult. Izuku continued his training, integrating Nen techniques more fully with his combat style. He practiced with Todoroki and Bakugo regularly, all three pushing each other to greater heights. His relationship with Momo deepened, moving past teenage romance into something more serious and permanent. And he waited, because his assassin instincts recognized patterns. The League was building toward something. Each attack had been testing responses, probing weaknesses, gathering data. They were preparing for a final operation, something that would make the USJ and training camp attacks look like preliminaries. The question was when and where they'd strike. The answer came during the Provisional Hero License Exam, a massive evaluation where hero students from across Japan competed to earn their temporary licenses. Thousands of students, minimal security oversight, chaotic conditions. Perfect target. Izuku recognized the attack moments before it materialized. His N-aura extended in a sensory field, detected multiple hostile presences appearing through portals around the exam venue. "Incoming!" he shouted, activating Ken-enhanced speed of lightning mode instantly. Villains poured through portals. Not dozens this time, but hundreds. The League had recruited massively, assembling an army for this assault. Their target was clear: cause maximum chaos, inflict massive casualties, destroy Hero Society's faith in its institutions. But they'd made a critical error. They'd attacked while Izuku Midoriya was present. What followed was the most spectacular combat display of Izuku's young life. He became a white-haired storm of death, moving through the villain army with systematic efficiency. His Nen-enhanced Godspeed made him untouchable. His assassination techniques made him lethal. His strategic mind made him devastating. He used rhythm echo to create swarms of afterimages, each one convincing enough to draw attacks. When villains committed to fighting the copies, he struck from unexpected angles with co-enhanced attacks that shattered bodies. His Thunderbolt technique, amplified with Nen emission, could be projected across hundreds of meters, eliminating threats before they reached other students. His Lightning Palm could overload multiple opponents simultaneously when he maintained Ren while striking. Other students joined the defense. Inasa's wind attacks created barriers and offensive strikes. Todoroki's elemental power controlled battlefield positioning. Bakugo's explosions eliminated groups. Momo created weapons and equipment for everyone. But Izuku was the centerpiece. Where he moved, villains died or fell incapacitated. His presence alone created zones of safety. Students knew that if they stayed near Midoriya, they were protected. The battle raged for 15 minutes before pro-heroes arrived in force. By then, Izuku had personally neutralized over 100 villains. His uniform was torn and blood-stained. His body ached from sustained Nen usage, but he was still standing, still fighting, still protecting. When the last villain fell unconscious from one of his non-lethal electrical strikes, silence fell across the exam venue. Thousands of students stared at Izuku Midoriya, the assassin's son who just saved their lives through overwhelming violence. Some looked grateful. Others looked terrified. All looked awed. "What are you?" Someone whispered, the question carrying across the sudden quiet. Izuku looked at the speaker, a student from another school, blood on his face from a minor wound, and considered how to answer. What was he? Assassin? Hero? Killer? Protector? "I'm someone who keeps people alive," he said finally, "whatever that makes me." The aftermath of the Provisional License Exam attack changed Hero Society fundamentally. The League of Villains' assault on such a massive student gathering sparked nationwide outrage and fear. Hero Commission came under intense scrutiny for security failures. UA faced calls for closure. But public opinion was complex. Yes, villains had attacked, but one student, Izuku Midoriya, had defended hundreds of others through decisive action. Media coverage showed him standing alone against a villain army, protecting his fellow students while pro-heroes scrambled to respond. He became famous overnight, not as a hero student with potential, but as the White Lightning Assassin, a title that made him wince but stuck regardless. News programs analyzed his combat style. Hero agencies fought for his attention. The Hero Commission's offer of sanctioned work was quietly renewed, and villains learned his name, learned to fear it. In the League of Villains' hidden base, Shigaraki watched footage of the exam attack with growing obsession. All for One, the ancient villain who'd orchestrated everything, studied the white-haired student with calculating interest. "He's stronger than most pro-heroes already," All for One observed, his voice carrying that timeless quality of something ancient and evil. "The Midoriya clan's finest product. Interesting." "He's destroyed our operations twice," Shigaraki hissed, scratching his neck frantically. "He needs to die. Let me kill him. Give me the quirks to do it." "Patience," All for One counseled. "Midoriya is powerful, yes, but power can be countered. We'll prepare specifically for him. When we move against Hero Society, he'll be neutralized along with everyone else. The League began planning their final operation, a coordinated assault on Hero Society itself. Not just an attack on students or a single facility, but a comprehensive strike designed to shatter the symbol of peace, destroy public faith in heroes, and create chaos that would let villain organizations thrive. They didn't know that Izuku's family had their own intelligence network, that the Midoriya clan, despite operating in shadows, maintained contacts throughout the underworld, that whispers of the League's planning had reached Hisashi's ears. Izuku was called home again, this time for an emergency family meeting. His father's expression was grave. The League of Villains is planning something massive. Our sources indicate they're targeting All Might directly and Hero Society broadly. Details are limited, but the timeline suggests they're moving within weeks. "What do you need me to do?" Izuku asked. "Nothing officially," Hisashi said. "The family's role is information gathering and targeted elimination. We don't engage in open warfare. But you're embedded at UA, connected to Hero Society in ways we're not. When the League moves, you'll be on the front lines whether we want you there or not." His mother spoke up, her voice tight with concern. "We could extract you, bring you home before whatever they're planning happens." "I'm not running," Izuku said firmly. "My classmates will be in danger. Momo, Inasa, everyone I've trained with, I won't abandon them." "We didn't think you would," his father said with quiet pride, "but we needed to offer the option. So instead, we're giving you something else." He produced a small case containing what looked like crystallized lightning, pure, concentrated energy in solid form. "These are accumulation crystals," Hisashi explained, "created by previous Midoriya family members through years of Nen refinement. They contain stored electrical and aura energy. If you're pushed beyond your limits, if you need power beyond what you can naturally generate, crush one of these. The energy will flood your system, temporarily multiplying your capabilities." Temporarily? For about 5 minutes. Then you'll experience backlash, exhaustion, possible unconsciousness. Use them only as a last resort. His father's expression was serious. But if you're facing something that requires overwhelming force to protect your friends, don't hesitate. Izuku accepted the case with understanding. His family was giving him emergency power reserves for the battle they knew was coming. His sister Eri hugged him tightly before he left. "Come back safe. You promised to teach me that lightning technique." "I will," Izuku promised. "And when I do, we'll work on your quirk development too." The Midoriya family's parting gift was their blessing, permission to fight with everything he had, family techniques and all, to protect the life he'd chosen at UA. The final confrontation came during what should have been a routine day. Classes had just ended when alarms blared across UA. Emergency broadcast screens activated, showing scenes of chaos across multiple cities. The League of Villains had launched their coordinated assault. Villains attacked hero agencies simultaneously. Nomu creatures, plural, suggesting All for One had created multiple bioweapons, rampaged through populated areas. And in the center of it All Might faced off against All for One himself in a battle that shook the ground. "Students, evacuate to the secure shelters immediately." Aizawa's voice carried authority and urgency. This is not a drill, but Izuku's phone was already ringing. A call from the Hero Commission. "Midoriya." Tanaka's voice was clipped and professional. "We're activating emergency response protocols. All available heroes and hero students with provisional licenses are being deployed. Your assignment is Sector 7, Downtown District, where multiple Nomu have been sighted. Eliminate or incapacitate them before they cause mass casualties." "I don't have a provisional license," Izuku pointed out. "The exam was interrupted." "As of now, you're granted emergency authorization. Legal technicalities are suspended during crisis situations. Get to Sector 7. Save lives." The call ended. Izuku looked at his phone, then at Aizawa, who had clearly overheard through the classroom speakers. "Go," his teacher said simply. "You're the most capable student we have for this kind of threat. Just try to come back alive." Izuku moved toward the door, but Inasa blocked his path, then stood beside him instead. "Together," Inasa said firmly. "We train together, we fight together." Momo appeared on his other side, already creating equipment. "I'm not letting you go alone into whatever disaster this is. I can support and provide tactical resources. Todoroki joined them. My quirk is effective against those Nomu creatures. I'm coming. Bakugo shoved past other students. Like hell, I'm sitting out the biggest fight of our generation. Let's go. Within minutes, half of Class 1A had assembled, students refusing to evacuate while they could fight. Aizawa looked at them, these teenagers ready to run toward danger, and his expression shifted between pride and concern. Fine, he said finally, but you move as a unit. You follow Midoriya's tactical commands. He has the most combat experience. You do not take unnecessary risks. And if I give the order to retreat, you retreat. Clear? Clear, the students responded in unison. They deployed across the city using emergency hero transport. Izuku's assigned sector was Chaos Incarnate, 3 Nomu creatures rampaging through streets, while heroes tried desperately to contain them and evacuate civilians. These Nomu were different from the one at USJ. Smaller, faster, clearly designed for urban terrorism, rather than direct combat against All Might. But still dangerous, still enhanced with multiple quirks and regeneration. Inasa, crowd control and evacuation support, Izuku commanded, his tactical mind processing the situation instantly. Use wind barriers to create safe zones. Momo, supply heroes with equipment they need, capture weapons, medical supplies, whatever they request. Todoroki, ice barriers to limit Nomu movement. Bakugo, you're with me on direct engagement. Why the hell would I? Because we're the 2 most capable of dealing damage these things can't regenerate through, Izuku interrupted. Your explosions and my lightning. Questions later, action now. Bakugo grinned viciously. Finally talking sense. Let's kill these bastards. They split up, each student moving to their assigned roles with professional efficiency. Izuku activated Ken Enhanced Speed of Lightning mode and became a blur of white hair and crackling energy. The first Nomu never saw him coming. Izuku appeared above it, co-concentrated strikes slamming down with all his aura and strength focused into a single point. The creature's head exploded from the impact, brain matter scattering. Its regeneration tried to compensate, but Izuku's follow-up lightning palm flooded the body with electrical current, frying the regeneration mechanism itself. Nomu 1, eliminated. The second Nomu had a projectile quirk. It launched bone spears from its body with devastating force. Izuku used Rhythm Echo to create multiple afterimages, each one drawing fire. When the Nomu committed to attacking a false target, he struck from behind with his claws extended, ripping through its spine and severing the connection between brain and body. Bakugo arrived, explosions already blazing. Left one for me? Third one's yours, Izuku confirmed, nodding toward the remaining Nomu that was battling 3 pro heroes simultaneously. Make it count. Damn right I will. Bakugo launched himself at the creature with explosive propulsion, his attacks raining down with enough force to crater pavement. The Nomu's regeneration struggled to keep pace with the continuous damage. Izuku could have finished it easily, but this was Bakugo's chance to prove himself against a real threat. He provided support instead. Electrical strikes that disrupted the Nomu's movements, creating openings for Bakugo to exploit. The blonde student noticed, and something like respect flashed across his expression before he concentrated all his explosive power into a single massive blast that obliterated the Nomu's core completely. Sector 7 secured. But across the city, the battle raged. All Might's fight against All for One was visible on every screen. The symbol of peace fighting beyond his limits, his power clearly waning, but his determination absolute. Izuku's phone rang again. The commission. All available combat personnel converge on All Might's position. All for One is the priority target. If he wins, Hero Society ends today. Class 1A regrouped and moved toward the massive battle that was reshaping downtown Tokyo. Other hero students from various schools were converging too, along with every pro hero who could reach the location. When they arrived, the sight stopped them cold. All for One stood amidst rubble and destruction, his faceless mask turned toward All Might, who was clearly at his limit. The ancient villain's power radiated like a physical force, dozens of quirks swirling around him, reality itself seeming to bend to his will. This is it, All for One declared, his voice carrying across the battlefield. The symbol of peace falls today. Hero Society built on one man's strength crumbles, and from the chaos, a new era rises. As long as I breathe, All Might gasped, his muscular form flickering between powerful and withered. I will stand against you. Then stop breathing. All for One's attack came, a combination of quirks that should have been impossible to survive. But somehow, All Might blocked it, his fist meeting the assault with pure stubborn heroism. The shockwave flattened buildings. Students were thrown backward. Only those with enhanced durability or defensive quirks remained standing. Izuku activated Ken at full power, his aura shield absorbing the impact. He could see what others couldn't. All Might was finished. One more attack of that magnitude and the symbol of peace would fall, which meant someone else had to end this. I'm going in, Izuku announced. That's suicide, Aizawa shouted, having arrived with other UA teachers. All for One is beyond anything a student can handle. Maybe, Izuku acknowledged, but All Might can't beat him, and if All for One wins here, everyone dies. So I'm going to kill him before that happens. He didn't wait for permission. Speed of lightning carried him toward the battle's center faster than anyone could stop him. All for One noticed his approach and laughed. The Midoriya boy? I wondered when you'd involve yourself. Your family's reputation suggests you're skilled, but you're still just a child. And you're still just a target, Izuku replied, electricity blazing brighter than it ever had. Powerful target, but targets are what I'm trained to eliminate. He attacked with everything he'd learned. Rhythm Echo created a dozen afterimages, each one enhanced with concealment. All for One's sensory quirks couldn't determine which was real. When the ancient villain committed to an attack, Izuku struck from an unexpected angle with co-enhanced lightning palm. The electrical discharge flooded All for One's body, and for the first time, the villain seemed hurt. Interesting, All for One said, his tone shifting from dismissive to engaged. You're stronger than intelligence suggested. The Midoriya clan truly has produced something exceptional. He counterattacked with devastating force, multiple quirks combining into attacks that would have killed any normal opponent. But Izuku was maintaining Ken at maximum output, his aura distributed across his entire body. The attack struck shields of condensed life energy and dispersed. They fought in a blur of speed and power. Izuku's Godspeed let him match All for One's enhanced reflexes. His Nen techniques provided defense against quirk attacks that should have been overwhelming. His assassination training gave him targeting precision that found weaknesses in All for One's defensive quirks. But it wasn't enough. All for One had accumulated quirks for over a century. He could adapt to almost anything, counter any strategy, overwhelm any defense. Izuku was strong, but the ancient villain was in a different category entirely. An attack broke through Izuku's Ken shield, striking his side and throwing him backward with crushing force. He felt ribs crack, tasted blood. Izuku! Momo's scream carried across the battlefield. Valiant effort, All for One acknowledged. But insufficient. I've fought the strongest heroes of multiple generations. You're talented, but you're still just a 15-year-old boy. Izuku stood slowly, pain radiating through his body. All for One was right. He was outmatched. His Nen and Godspeed combined weren't enough to bridge the gap between them. He needed more power. His hand found the case his father had given him. The accumulation crystals, emergency reserves for impossible situations. This qualified. He crushed one of the crystals and pure energy flooded his system. It was like being struck by lightning from the inside out. Electrical and aura energy that his ancestors had refined over years poured into him, multiplying his capabilities exponentially. His Nen aura exploded outward, visible as a brilliant white corona, his Godspeed activated at levels he'd never reached naturally. Oh? All for One's interest sharpened. What's this? This, Izuku said, his voice distorted by the sheer power coursing through him, is what happens when you threaten my friends, my classmates, my chosen life. He moved. Even All for One, with a century of combat experience and dozens of enhancement quirks, barely tracked the movement. Izuku appeared in his guard, co-enhanced fists striking with force that exceeded anything he'd managed before. The ancient villain flew backward, crashing through buildings. Izuku pursued relentlessly, each strike multiplied by the crystallized energy. His lightning palm, amplified by the accumulated power, created electrical discharges that lit up the sky. And his thunderbolt technique projected with enough force to vaporize concrete. His physical strikes generated shockwaves that reshaped the battlefield. All for One defended desperately, quirks layering in combinations designed to protect him. But Izuku's Nen-enhanced attacks bypassed conventional defenses, striking at the villain's aura directly. Impossible, All For One gasped as another strike broke through his protection. You're just a student. This power is what the Midoriya family has accumulated for generations. Izuku interrupted, appearing behind the villain with speed that transcended tracking. You made a mistake targeting Hero Society. A bigger mistake threatening my friends. The biggest mistake was assuming I'd let you walk away from this. His hands became blurs, assassination techniques executing with superhuman precision. He struck pressure points that disrupted All For One's quirk usage, destroyed the villain's ability to channel multiple quirks simultaneously, damaged his regeneration factors. All For One was being systematically dismantled by a 15-year-old. Tamura, the ancient villain, gasped, activating some kind of communication quirk. Retreat. Evacuate all League personnel. This battle is lost. But Sensei, now! Across the city, portals opened as Kurogiri evacuated villains. The coordinated assault collapsed as the League's forces retreated en masse. But Izuku wasn't letting All For One escape. You came here to destroy Hero Society, he said, his aura blazing so brightly it hurt to look at directly. You threatened everything I've chosen to protect. You endangered people I care about. He activated his ultimate technique, something he'd never used before, combining every aspect of his training into a single attack. Co-enhanced concentration of all his aura, Nen amplified electrical discharge, Godspeed enhanced delivery speed, assassination precision targeting the heart. You don't get to walk away from that. His hand pierced All For One's chest, claws extended, wrapping around the ancient villain's heart. Electrical current flooded the organ, stopping it instantly. The accumulated energy from the crystal burned through All For One's regeneration quirks, preventing recovery. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The ancient villain who'd orchestrated decades of chaos, who'd fought All Might to a standstill, who'd built a villain empire, looked down at the white-haired student who just killed him. Remarkable, All For One whispered, blood on his lips. The Midoriya clan's finest. His body went limp. Izuku extracted his hand, letting the corpse fall. All For One, the symbol of evil, the ancient architect of villainy, the only person who could truly challenge All Might, was dead. The battlefield fell silent. Heroes, students, villains still present, media cameras broadcasting worldwide. Everyone stared at Izuku Midoriya, who stood over All For One's body, covered in blood, his aura still blazing white. Then the accumulated energy's backlash hit. Izuku collapsed, consciousness fading as the emergency power reserves exhausted themselves. The last thing he saw before darkness claimed him was Momo and Inasa running toward him, their expressions mixing relief and terror. He'd done it. Killed the greatest villain of the era, saved All Might, protected Hero Society, and maybe proven that an assassin could be a hero after all. Izuku woke in a hospital bed 3 days later. His body ached with profound exhaustion. The backlash from using the accumulation crystal had nearly killed him. Only his conditioned body and Nen-enhanced durability had kept him alive. The room was filled with flowers and cards. Inasa was asleep in a chair by his bed, keeping vigil. Momo sat on the other side, reading a book, but looking up immediately when Izuku stirred. "You're awake," she said, relief evident in her voice. "Don't try to move too quickly." Recovery Girl said the strain on your body was severe. "Did we win?" Izuku asked, his throat dry. "You won," Momo corrected gently. "All For One is dead. The League of Villains scattered. Hero Society survived. You saved everyone. At what cost? Your body is recovering. No permanent damage, but you'll need weeks of rest before you're back to full capability." She squeezed his hand. "The media is calling you the hero killer, both because you killed All For One and because you're technically from an assassin family who became a hero." "Catchy," Izuku said with weak humor. Over the next week, as his body slowly recovered, Izuku learned the full scope of what had happened. All Might had officially retired, his power exhausted in the fight against All For One. Other heroes had stepped up to fill the void. The League of Villains was fractured, with Shigaraki and remnants in hiding, but no longer an organized threat. And Hero Society had been fundamentally changed by what they'd witnessed. A student, a 15-year-old assassin's son, had defeated the greatest villain of the modern era through overwhelming force and decisive action. The Hero Commission offered him immediate pro-hero status despite being underage. Provisional license be damned. He declined. He wasn't ready for that responsibility yet, and he wanted to complete his education at UA. His classmates visited constantly. Inasa barely left, maintaining his vigil as a brother would. Todoroki came by to thank him for saving everyone's lives. Bakugo showed up once, said, "Don't die. Damn it," and left, which was his version of concern. When Izuku was finally cleared to leave the hospital, his family was waiting. His father, mother, and sister Eri had come to take him home for final recovery. "You did it," Hisashi said quietly, pride evident in his voice. "Eliminated a threat that had existed for over a century. Used everything we taught you and everything you learned to protect people. The family is proud. I nearly died doing it," Izuku pointed out. "But you didn't. You survived. You protected your chosen people, and you demonstrated that the Midoriya legacy can be more than just assassination." His father's expression softened. "I told you once that you were becoming something more than our successor. This proved it. You're not just an assassin or a hero. You're both, and that makes you unique in ways that matter." Recovery took 3 weeks. His body healed, his nen reserves replenished, his stamina returned, but something had fundamentally changed. Not physically, but mentally. He'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, killed someone so powerful that the act would define how people saw him forever. When he finally returned to UA, the campus felt different. Students looked at him with awe and wariness. He wasn't just the talented assassin's son anymore. He was the one who'd killed all for one, the one who'd saved hero society through overwhelming violence. His first day back, Principal Nezu called him to the office. "Welcome back, Midoriya," the principal said warmly. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Ready to get back to training." "Good, because UA needs to discuss your future here." Nezu's expression grew serious. "What you did, killing all for one, saved countless lives, but it also created a precedent that concerns some educators and commission members. You've demonstrated that students can defeat threats beyond pro-hero capability. That changes expectations." "I'm not planning to make a habit of fighting ancient supervillains," Izuku said dryly. "No, but you've proven you're capable of it when necessary. That capability brings responsibility and attention." Nezu sipped his tea thoughtfully. "The Commission wants to create a special program for exceptional students like you. Advanced training, early pro-hero licensing, deployment on high-risk missions. They're calling it the Elite Response Initiative." Sounds like they want to weaponize talented students. Precisely my concern, which is why I'm giving you the choice. You can join this initiative, graduate early, become a pro-hero immediately, or you can continue your education normally, develop at your own pace, build the foundation for long-term success. Nezu's eyes held genuine care. "What do you want, Izuku?" The question hung in the air. What did he want? To be a hero, to protect people, to use his abilities for something beyond assassination contracts, but also to have time to grow, to learn, to become someone who could sustain this chosen path long-term. "I'll stay at UA," Izuku decided. "Complete my education properly. The Elite Initiative sounds like it would burn me out before I'm 20. I'd rather build something sustainable." Nezu smiled. "A wise choice. I'll inform the Commission of your decision." Epilogue. The Legacy 5 years later. The Midoriya Hero Agency occupied a sleek tower in downtown Tokyo, its reputation already legendary despite being only 2 years old. Founded by Izuku Midoriya and Inasa Yoarashi as equal partners, the agency had quickly become known as the most effective in Japan, perhaps the world. They didn't just save people, they solved problems. Permanently. Izuku sat in his office, reviewing case files with the same analytical precision he'd learned from his assassin training. At 20 years old, he'd graduated UA at the top of his class, earned his pro-hero license, and established an agency that operated on his own principles. Protect civilians first, eliminate threats decisively, no compromise with genuine evil. The agency's approach was controversial. They had the highest villain kill rate of any hero organization. Izuku still used lethal force when he deemed it necessary. But they also had the highest civilian save rate, the fastest response times, and 0 cases of villains they'd captured escaping to commit more crimes. Because Izuku didn't capture threats that required elimination. He killed them efficiently and moved on. A knock on his door interrupted his review. Inasa entered, his characteristic enthusiasm matured but still present. "Got the mission briefing from the commission," Inasa said, dropping a file on Izuku's desk. "High priority target? Villain with mind control quirk who's been targeting government officials. They want him eliminated quietly." "Not captured?" "They specifically requested permanent solution. Apparently this guy has escaped custody 3 times. They're done taking chances." Izuku opened the file, his green eyes scanning the target information with practiced ease. Mid-30s, powerful quirk, extensive criminal network, known for brutality and 0 remorse. "I'll handle it tonight," he decided. Solo insertion, clean elimination, no witnesses. "Just like the old family business," Inasa observed. "Just like the old family business," Izuku confirmed with slight amusement, "except now I'm being paid by Hero Society instead of shadowy contractors. Progress." They both laughed. The agency operated in a strange space between traditional hero work and the Midoriya family's assassination legacy. They saved people during disasters, fought villains publicly, and maintained Hero Society's image. But they also took contracts for targets that needed to disappear quietly, using Izuku's training for society's benefit. It worked. Hero Society got results. Civilians got protection. And Izuku had found a way to integrate both halves of himself into something functional and effective. Another knock. Momo entered, no longer just his girlfriend, but his fiancée. They'd gotten engaged 6 months ago, wedding planned for next spring. "Ready for tonight?" she asked. As the agency's chief strategist and second-in-command, she coordinated operations and managed their public image. "Always ready," Izuku replied. "You've got the logistics planned?" "Escape routes mapped. Backup teams positioned, medical support on standby." She leaned against his desk, their comfort with each other evident after years together. "Though I doubt you'll need backup for this one." She was right. Izuku's capabilities had only grown since UA. His Nen mastery was complete, his Godspeed modes refined to perfection, his assassination techniques honed through hundreds of contracts. Very few threats in the world could challenge him anymore. "How are the wedding plans coming?" Inasa asked with a grin. "Need help with anything?" "You're already the best man," Momo reminded him. "Just show up on time and don't let your enthusiasm blow away the decorations." No promises. The easy banter between the three of them reflected years of partnership and friendship. Inasa had been Izuku's brother in all but blood since their first day at UA. Momo had seen past his assassin nature to the person underneath. Together, they'd built something unprecedented. A hero agency that didn't pretend violence wasn't sometimes necessary, that didn't apologize for protecting civilians through whatever means worked. That evening, Izuku prepared for the contract. He dressed in his hero costume, sleek black with white lightning accents, designed more for stealth than spectacle. His yo-yo was concealed in his jacket. His claws were sharpened, his nen was centered and ready. This was the duality he'd learned to embrace. During the day, Midoriya Izuku the pro-hero saved civilians, inspired hope, embodied heroism. At night, when necessary, the Midoriya clan's heir eliminated threats that endangered society. He was both, fully, unapologetically. The mission went flawlessly. The target never saw him coming. Ken-enhanced stealth combined with Zetsu suppression made Izuku invisible to every sensory quirk. The kill was clean, a precise strike that stopped the heart instantly. No suffering, no witnesses. Another threat eliminated, another contract completed, another day in the life of a hero who'd integrated his assassin legacy into protecting people. 1 year later. 1 year later. The wedding was exactly what Izuku and Momo wanted. Elegant, private, attended only by people who truly mattered to them. Class 1A was there in full. They'd all become pro-heroes themselves, many working in partnership with Izuku's agency. The Yaoyorozu family attended, having long since accepted Izuku as their daughter's choice. Even the Midoriya family came, his father giving him away with quiet pride. Inasa's best man's speech was characteristically enthusiastic and made everyone laugh. Todoroki's toast was surprisingly emotional. He'd become close friends with both of them over the years. Even Bakugo showed up and didn't complain much. Standing at the altar, seeing Momo in her wedding dress, Izuku felt something he'd never experienced in his assassin childhood: complete peace. This was what he'd been seeking when he chose to attend UA. Not just a different career, but a different life. one where he could be lethal and loving, protective and partner, hero and assassin. "I love you," Momo said as they exchanged vows. "All of you. The brilliant strategist, the protective hero, the efficient assassin, the boy who hoards chocolate. Everything you are makes you who I chose." "I love you too," Izuku replied. "You saw past what I was trained to be and helped me become who I wanted to be. Thank you for that, for everything." Their kiss was met with cheers and applause. The reception lasted into the night. Celebration, joy, the coming together of Hero Society's brightest young stars to honor two of their most exceptional members. As the evening wound down and guests began leaving, Izuku found himself on a balcony with Inasa, both of them looking out at the Tokyo skyline. "We did it," Inasa said quietly, his usual volume dimmed by the moment's significance. "Built something real. The agency, your marriage, our impact on Hero Society, we actually did it." "We did," Izuku agreed, "though I couldn't have done it without you. You've been my brother since that first day at UA through everything, the attacks, the training, the battles, the agency building. Thank you for that." "Always," Inasa replied firmly. "That's what brothers do. We face everything together." They stood in comfortable silence, two young men who'd started as students and become legendary heroes through very different paths that had somehow converged into perfect partnership. 4 years later, the Midoriya household was chaos in the best way. Their daughter, 3-year-old Rin, had inherited both parents' quirks in a fusion that created electrical constructs. She could generate lightning that took solid form. Their son, 1-year-old Kaido, was still too young for quirk manifestation, but Izuku suspected he'd inherited Nen sensitivity based on how the baby's aura already flickered when emotional. Momo was in the kitchen, managing breakfast while simultaneously coordinating agency operations via phone. Izuku was attempting to convince Rin that using her lightning to toast bread was not an appropriate quirk application. "But Daddy does lightning things all the time!" Rin protested with a pout that reminded Izuku painfully of his own mother. "Daddy's lightning is very controlled," Izuku explained patiently. "When you're older and trained, you can use your quirk for lots of things. Right now, we use the toaster. Toaster is boring. Toaster doesn't set the kitchen on fire." Domestic life suited Izuku in ways he'd never expected. The agency was thriving. Their reputation as the most effective hero organization in Japan was unquestioned. He and Inasa had expanded to multiple branch offices, each staffed with heroes they'd personally trained in their methodology. They'd also quietly continued the Midoriya family's assassination legacy. When the Hero Commission identified targets too dangerous or politically sensitive for public hero intervention, Izuku took the contracts. Clean eliminations, no evidence, no questions. It was the compromise that let Hero Society function while maintaining its idealistic image. His father had officially retired, passing the Midoriya clan's leadership to Izuku. The family's network now operated in service of the Hero Agency, intelligence gathering, targeted elimination of threats, behind-the-scenes work that ensured Hero Society could maintain its public face. Izuku had become exactly what he'd unconsciously been seeking since childhood, a bridge between two worlds, integrating his assassin heritage with his heroic ambitions into something unique and effective. That afternoon, after settling the children for naps, Izuku sat in his home office reviewing agency reports. The hero world had changed dramatically since his UA days. All Might's retirement had created space for a new generation of heroes to rise. Many of Izuku's classmates had become top-ranked heroes themselves. Hero Society was stronger than it had been before All for One's attack, tested and proven resilient. A message arrived from the Commission, new high-priority target, extreme danger, requesting Midoriya agency response. Izuku opened the file and analyzed the threat. Powerful villain, multiple quirks acquired through illegal experimentation, pattern of extreme violence against civilians. He made a decision within seconds. Elimination required. This wasn't a threat that could be reformed or safely imprisoned. This was cancer that needed to be cut out before it spread further. "I'm taking a contract tonight," he told Momo when she came to check on him. "Should be back by morning." "Be safe," she said, kissing him softly. "Your children want their father home. Always," he promised. That night, Izuku Midoriya, pro-hero, agency director, husband, father, and heir to an assassin dynasty, went to work. He moved through Tokyo's shadows with the same lethal grace his family had perfected over generations. Found his target, evaluated the threat, made his decision. The kill was clean and efficient. The villain never knew what hit him. One moment alive and dangerous, the next simply gone. No suffering, no spectacle, just professional elimination of a threat to civilian safety. Izuku returned home before dawn, showered away any evidence and slipped into bed beside Momo without waking her. By the time the children woke for breakfast, he was the loving father who made pancakes in funny shapes and helped Rin practice controlled quirk usage. This was his life now. Hero and assassin, protector and eliminator, public symbol and shadow operative, father and fighter. He'd learned to be all of it simultaneously, no longer struggling with the contradictions, but embracing them as complementary aspects of his complete self. 10 years low. 10 years later, Izuku stood at the UA High School podium addressing the incoming class of first-year hero students. At 30 years old, he was one of Japan's most decorated heroes, director of its most effective agency, and, as of this semester, a guest lecturer at his alma mater. The students looked at him with awe. They'd grown up hearing stories about the White Lightning hero who'd killed all for one, who operated an agency that never failed, who could eliminate threats that challenged even top-ranked pros. Hero work isn't what you've seen on TV, Izuku began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who'd saved thousands of lives and ended hundreds of threats. It's not always inspiring speeches and dramatic rescues. Sometimes it's making hard choices that society would rather not acknowledge. Sometimes it's getting your hands dirty so civilians can stay clean. Sometimes it's being the person who does what's necessary even when it's not what's heroic. He paused, looking at these teenagers who still thought heroism was simple. I was trained as an assassin before I came to UA, he continued, his honesty making several students gasp. My family has eliminated targets for governments and organizations for over a century. I've killed people, both as an assassin and as a hero. That's not something I'm proud of, but it's also not something I'm ashamed of. Because every person I've killed was a threat to innocent lives. Every elimination was a decision I made deliberately after careful assessment. The lecture hall was silent, students processing this raw honesty from a top hero. You're here to learn how to save people, Izuku said. That's good, that's important. But saving people sometimes requires eliminating threats. Sometimes the only way to protect civilians is to be decisive and lethal. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't let Hero Society's idealism blind you to practical reality. After the lecture, students swarmed him with questions. Some wanted to know about his techniques. Others asked about the moral complexity of lethal force. A few even asked if he regretted his choices. Never, Izuku answered that last question firmly. Because everyone I've killed would have killed innocent people if I'd hesitated. My job, your future job, is protecting the people who can't protect themselves. If that requires violence, if that requires killing, then that's what we do. The alternative is letting threats harm civilians because we're too squeamish to make hard choices. Among the crowd of students, Izuku noticed a white-haired girl who looked at him with particular intensity. Her eyes held something familiar. The look of someone trained for violence, trying to find a different path. He approached her after the others had dispersed. You've got questions. How did you do it? She asked quietly. Integrate both parts of yourself? I was trained by my family for similar work. I came to UA hoping to find something different, but I don't know how to be a hero when I was raised to be. A killer, Izuku finished. I understand. What's your name? Shirogane Yuki. Well, Yuki, here's what I learned. You don't have to choose between what you were trained to be and what you want to become. You can be both. The skills that make you an effective killer can make you an exceptional hero if you channel them correctly. He smiled slightly. You're not broken or wrong for having that training. You're just starting with different tools than other students. Use them wisely. The girl's expression shifted, hope mixing with determination. Thank you. That helps. As she walked away, Izuku felt a sense of completion. He'd become what he'd needed when he was her age. Someone who understood the struggle of integrating assassin training with heroic ambition, who could guide others down that difficult path. Final scene. 15 years after graduation, the Midoriya family gathered for dinner at their estate, now expanded to accommodate their growing family and the agency's continued success. Rin was 13, already showing exceptional quirk control and combat awareness. Kaito was 11, his Nen abilities developing rapidly under Izuku's careful training. Their youngest daughter, 5-year-old Yui, had just started displaying her quirk, electrical teleportation that made her parents simultaneously proud and terrified. Momo coordinated the chaos with the same strategic brilliance she brought to agency operations. Inasa had arrived with his own family. He'd married a hero named Kami and had twin boys who were currently attempting to fly using Inasa's wind quirk training. "Uncle Inasa," Rin called out, "can you help me with that wind-assisted lightning technique?" Obviously. Inasa's enthusiasm hadn't dimmed with age. "After dinner, we'll show everyone how awesome combining our quirks can be." Izuku watched the scene with quiet satisfaction. This was the legacy he'd built. A family that knew his complete truth and loved him anyway. An agency that protected civilians through effective action rather than idealistic posturing. A new generation of heroes learning to integrate strength with wisdom. His father sat across the table, retired but still sharp. "You've done well, son. Better than I expected when you first said you wanted to be a hero. You didn't just become a hero, you changed what that means." "I had good teachers," Izuku replied, "both in assassination and heroism." After dinner, as the sun set over Tokyo, Izuku found himself on the estate's balcony with Momo, watching their children play in the garden below. "Any regrets?" Momo asked, leaning against him. Izuku considered the question. He'd killed hundreds of people over his career. Some were contract targets for the commission. Others were threats eliminated during hero work. Each death was a weight he carried, a choice he'd made deliberately. But he'd also saved thousands. Protected civilians who'd never know his name, eliminated villains who would have murdered innocents, built an agency that had become the standard for effective hero work, raised children who understood that strength came with responsibility. "No regrets," he said finally. "I chose this path, integrated my family's legacy with Hero Society's ideals, became something unprecedented, an assassin who protects instead of just eliminating. It's been hard, complicated, and morally ambiguous, but it's been mine." "And ours," Momo corrected gently. "We built this together. You, me, Inasa, everyone at the agency. This legacy belongs to all of us." She was right. What Izuku had created wasn't just personal achievement, it was collective effort. Friends who'd supported him, family who'd accepted his choices, colleagues who'd shared his vision of effective heroism that didn't pretend violence was never necessary. As night fell and stars appeared above Tokyo, Izuku Midoriya, the White Lightning hero, elite assassin, agency director, husband, father, and lecturer, looked at his life and felt genuine peace. He'd come to UA 15 years ago searching for something more than assassination. He'd found it, a way to be fully himself, deadly and protective, lethal and loving, assassin and hero. The Midoriya legacy had evolved from pure assassination to something richer and more complex. His children would inherit that legacy, trained in their family's lethal techniques but raised to protect rather than just eliminate. And somewhere in the shadows of Tokyo, threats still existed. Villains who would prey on civilians, criminals who believed themselves untouchable, organizations that thought Hero Society was weak. When those threats emerged, Izuku Midoriya would be there, not just as a hero, but as the Midoriya clan's heir. He would assess, decide, and act with the efficiency his family had perfected over generations, because some threats required saving, others required elimination. And knowing the difference, making that choice deliberately and living with the consequences, that was what made him both an elite assassin and an exceptional hero. His legacy was complex, morally ambiguous, and absolutely effective. Just like him. The end.
And now, it's time for our Patreon shout-out. For our pro-hero tier, the rising stars lighting the path of justice, Ancient Chant, and Javon McQuire. And for our mighty symbol of peace tier, Ab, Peter Hamilton, Freddie Rose, Omega, Toxic Rune, Akuma no Akami, Crystalli, Ethe Voice, Alexander Thompson, Remorsefuls, Blackvein, Nicholas Barnes, Joshua Hedrington, Aaron Abercrombie, Drift SK Eater, Akeno Himajima, Corey Tokars, Jan, Zero Hope 3656, Devin Black, Rowdy Rich, King of the Pirates, Crow, Daniel Sharp, Roberto Ramos de Cristina, Dasher Games, Joe Bros, Aiden Schmidt, Mason Edwards, Ray Von Crimson River, Dante Alistar, Adam Yonkers, Blood Saints, Zdana Cathay, Zeph, Assassin 24, Howie 60, Ignacio, Albert, Carlos Terry, Rafael Tehran, Kevin Hall, Omar Cousin. You're the ones who keep the fire of justice blazing.
And finally, our Hope of the Universe tier. Marl, Spintown, Jaden Garrett, Greg Green, James, Quanyan Thompson, Big Fro Pro, Juan, I'm Calver, Colsey. You're the legends who stand above all, the shining hope that guides every hero onward. So that's my story. The path I carved with blood, lightning, and my own choices. If you want to see how this all ends, how I face the ultimate evil and forge my own legacy, then subscribe and stick around. I've got one more move to make, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. The real fight is just beginning. See you in the next one, if you can keep up with God's speed.